Urgent. My sister's YouTube channel at Renovative has been hacked. Please be aware of any strange or unusual content posted on her channel as it is no longer under her control. We urge you to subscribe to her new channel, Rena Fiction, to avoid any confusion or misinformation. Thank you for your understanding and support during this difficult time. Hello to all lovers of lemon scenes. I invite you all to my boosty so you can watch your favorite Naruto What If stories in complete comfort. A subscription to Naruto Lemon, the first video with a full lemon, is already on my boosty channel. Dare! The tragedy of 8 years ago is the attack of the Kyubi no Yoko on one of the Kakurazato. With a wave of his tails, he crushed mountains, sent waves of tides that destroyed the coast. Only one shinobi could afford to oppose the enraged Bijou. He sacrificed his own life to capture the fox and seal it in a human body. This valiant warrior was Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Konohakagure no Sato. Immediately after the fatal incident, a council was convened, which included leaders of the leading clans and advisors, where several questions were decided at once: who will replace the deceased hero, and what to do with the newly minted Jinchuriki. The first issue was resolved quickly. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who already had tremendous experience behind him, was temporarily put in place of the fourth. On the second question, opinions were divided. Danzo advocated that the child be sent to the root, arguing that she would make an excellent weapon. The rest insisted that she live her own life as an orphan, withholding information regarding her origins. As soon as the sun rose, one could see a barely noticeable, miniature figure on one of the streets of the village. A small, one might say fragile body, long, flowing hair the color of a bright sun. Large, sky-blue eyes, in which, it seemed, one could drown. Another distinguishing feature was 3 stripes on each cheek, resembling a fox mustache, which was difficult for a simple layman to notice. They were covered by a long bang, which also covered half of the girl's face. It won't be hard to guess that it was our young Uzumaki. She was dressed in a black tank top with a hood, black pants, and black shinobi shoes. She was humble and kind. For her age, she was smart enough not to try to make friends herself and bypass adults. She often walks in small streets in order to flicker less in front of people. Although she was used to hateful looks, frequent insults akin to demonic offspring, wishes for a speedy death, and frequent beatings, it continued to bring unbearable pain to her, even if she knew the reason for such an attitude towards herself. Flashback. POV Naruto. This day was not like a normal one. Today was my birthday. I was about to turn 4 years old. I decided to buy myself some cake after barely saving up this year's benefit money. I went out into the street when it was barely past noon. I still didn't want to get caught by the villagers that day. They constantly showed hatred and aggression. They forbade their children to play with me, threw stones at me, and even beat me. I always tried to restrain my emotions rushing out, because as soon as I cried out in pain or just shed a tear, they began torturing me with new agility, which was only for the amusement of the offender. I realized this after 2 years of being in my house. Leaving my room, in which the atmosphere of loneliness soared, I nevertheless moved to the store, trying to bypass the locals, because on this day no one would hesitate to hurt the demon. It was on the 10th of October that Kakurazato suffered heavy losses due to a demon attacking her. It is on this evening that it becomes more and more difficult. Drunkards continually strive to set fire to my house, hoping to get rid of the hated demon. Upon arrival at the store, I still chose a cake from one of the shelves, after which I went to the seller at the checkout. He also looked at me with a hateful look, clearly feeling hostility. Therefore, rudely taking away the desired sweetness and flashing his eyes evilly, he nevertheless broke through my cake, inflating the price almost 3 times. Good thing I was ready for this. Nevertheless, I got home in a slightly elated mood, because the purchase was successful. Usually, before I had time to visit the building, I was sent home with an angry tirade. Turning my head towards the setting sun and involuntarily admiring, I did not notice that a company of rather tipsy shinobi, judging by their clothes, came out of the alley into which I had to go, and I stumbled upon them. Instantly realizing how everything could end, I immediately began to make amends with words. "Sorry," she squeaked under her breath. Barely audible, and hurried to retreat. "Look, this is a little demon," hiccuping, one of them managed to grab me by the scruff of the neck, after which he painfully put me against a brick wall. Unable to resist, I continued to lie on the ground. "Yeah," the second one agreed, hiccuping, "what are we going to do with her?" Raising an eyebrow in question, he immediately pinned me to the ground with his foot. "We will avenge the fallen comrades and the dead families," the third drunken man growled angrily, immediately putting me in the ribs. There was a barely audible crack in the chest from the blow. Holding back the pain, I had to clench my teeth until they gnashed. They started beating me, and I lay curled up in a ball and felt my bones break. The offenders were talking about something, but I no longer listened to them, barely remaining conscious. When they decided enough was enough for today, they just left as if nothing had happened here. No longer able to be conscious, I just fell into such an alluring darkness. It was interesting that I did not lose consciousness, but ended up in some kind of sewer. There was a lot of water in it, almost up to my knee, many corridors with dim, greenish lighting. I wandered through them for about an hour, until I came across a vast hall, in which there was a huge cage with the same immense gates, on which there was a paper sheet with the kanji seal. I could not see anything behind the cage from such a distance, therefore, with apprehension, I approached them. End POV Naruto. As soon as they approached the doors, two huge, animal eyes immediately began to be seen behind them, examining the girl, as if another victim. "You pathetic piece of meat, come closer, I'll eat you," the creature on the other side thundered in a low bass, like a bolt from the blue, with obvious malice in its voice. Literally for a moment, loneliness and all-encompassing melancholy flashed in the eyes, which did not escape the eyes of the curious piece of meat. "Who you are?" The baby looked at the fox with her big eyes, and the loneliness in the eyes of the fox did not hide from them. "Are you as lonely as me?" Kyubi was barely perceptibly surprised. "This girl treats me with respect, even though I didn't show her in front of her. Why does he talk about loneliness with such confidence?" Barely translating his thoughts, the unknown nevertheless decided to appear from the all-encompassing darkness. Kyubi no Yoko is the strongest of the bijou, but again fell into a stupor, looking at the girl. Her eyes showed no fear, only interest, curiosity. At the same time, he could not contain the rage that barely bubbled up in him. "How do you know I'm lonely?" "I cannot be alone, I am the most powerful nine-tailed demon," he growled. "Well, what if you're a demon?" The young Uzumaki did not calm down. "I read about you and you were sealed for a whole 1,000 years, but you were lonely all this time, just like me. They call me a demon too, but my name is Naruto Uzumaki." She did not stop bending her line. "What is your name?" "I think Kyubi no Yoko is just what people call you." "Kurama," the fox replied with imperceptible confusion. "That is my true name." The greatest of the demons was in disarray, because this girl allowed herself to talk to him, as his father, Rikudo, spoke. "You are the second person who knows my real name," the fox said with a bit of sadness. After all, the death of his father was still in his eyes. "And who was the first?" Immediately received a question from the brisk Jinchuriki. "He was Hagoromo Otsutsuki, my father. He is known to you as the Sage of the Six Paths." Imperceptibly for himself, he began his story about his father with unchanging pride. Hagoromo was a man who sought peace by spreading his ideals around the globe. He was incredibly wise, as he could bring about great changes in the world by teaching the people of Ninshu and the basics of his religion. He took care of us while we were young, staying with him. He gave each of us his own name, as a symbol of our individuality, and assured that no matter how far separated us, we will always remain united, that one day we will be led the right way. For this reason, we treated the sage with respect and admiration. The fox talked for another hour about his attitude towards his father, about all his thoughts about him. Throughout the story, the demon himself did not take his eyes off the girl, watching. When the demon had already finished, he noticed that the listener wanted to say something to him, but constantly pulled herself away from the thought. What's happened? Unable to withstand the silence, but the storm of emotions that was reflected on the face of the interlocutor, he asked a question of interest. Will you be my first friend? Naruto hesitated, clearly afraid of a negative answer. The fox at first froze in anticipation, because he assumed that after the story about his father more questions would follow, but, as it turned out, the fox wanted to burst out laughing, with his characteristic baritone, but stopped at this thought when he saw a sad look with a bit of determination in front of yourself. Of course I will, because now spending time here will not be so boring. He squeezed out such unnatural, but long-desired words, not without desire. As soon as the meaning came to Naruto, it instantly blossomed, almost emitting light. Finally she has a friend. From one thought, she felt so good at heart that she cast aside all fear and rushed to the other side of the cage to her new, first friend. End of flashback. 4 years have passed since that day. Kurama always chuckles when he remembers this acquaintance, although he does not mind their friendship. He told her a long time ago about his parents, that even though he was guilty of the death of many residents that night, even though he was under the influence of the ill-fated Uchiha, Naruto didn't hold a grudge against him, completely beaming at the realization that she had her first friend. Also, none of them forgot about training. The fox already on the first day gave her instructions on improving physical parameters. They decided to forget about classes with chakra until the time of the academy. Well, soon Naruto's first day at the academy. It was a sunny day. In the blue sky one could rarely see clouds floating above the ground. Today should be Naruto's first day at the academy. Near the building itself it was quite crowded. Every now and then near the entrance you can see children scurrying back and forth with their parents. Our young heroine had just approached the fence, when that joyful atmosphere disappeared in an instant. Every now and then people threw sidelong glances, spoke unkindly, like, what did this demon forget here? Yes, what the hell is Sandane doing? Does he want this scum to be in the same building as our kids? Noticing a swing hanging on one of the tree branches that was opposite the building, our heroine hurried to jump on it, immersed in her own thoughts. A couple of minutes later, the rumble near the academy subsided, and our heroine just stared at the culprit of this. The current Hokage himself came out to address the children just starting their journey with parting words. Dear young shinobi and their respectful parents. Today is a significant day. Some of you will begin your studies at our academy. It is here that they will teach you the basics, make you strong shinobi, able to protect your homeland, your loved ones. It is here that you will inherit what the elders treasure with trepidation, the will of fire. After finishing his short but passionate speech, the respected figure slowly left, allowing the students to start a new round in their lives. Children hurriedly burst into the academy and dispersed to their classrooms. Naruto, having found hers, barely noticeably slipped to the last desk, next to the window. As soon as the children took their desired seats, Sensei immediately entered the auditorium, after which the buzz in the classroom subsided almost instantly. The teacher was rather tall, with brown hair tied in a high ponytail, black eyes, and a scar that ran along the bridge of his nose, the first thing that caught his eye. He was dressed in standard Konoha shinobi clothing complete with a protective protector. Hello everyone, he loudly greeted the children. I am your teacher for all courses at the academy. My name is Iruka Yumino, but for you I will be Iruka Sensei for the coming years. It gives me pleasure to teach children something, so I will be very happy if you listen to absolutely everything that I try to convey to you. I do not like when they play around or sleep in my lessons. He summed up. Clinging to the class magazine with his eyes, the teacher immediately took it in his hands, after which he looked around the class again. "Now I will call your names, and you will stand up and tell a little about yourself," the man finished with a benevolent smile. Our young shinobi, on the other hand, ignored almost everything, constantly talking mentally with Kurama. They discussed further chakra training. Naruto didn't even notice that the boy sat next to her. Oval face type, narrow eyes with pupils of a light shade, long black hair tied in a high ponytail. From clothes he wore a mesh tank top and a short open jacket in gray with green piping, on each sleeve the symbol of the Nara clan. On his feet he wears brown cropped pants and blue shinobi sandals. Shikamaru POV. How lazy to get up and trudge to the academy, but, damn it, you have to. What can I do? I can't argue with my mother's frying pan, which, by the way, is damn heavy, but I have to agree. As soon as I entered the academic courtyard with my parents, whispers akin to demon, monster reached my ears. I turned around to look at what was happening, but I only saw how adults and children were slandering an unremarkable, at first glance, girl. The girl herself, I must admit, was quite pretty, golden flowing hair to the waist. On the cheeks there are barely visible marks in the form of an animal mustache, a rather fragile-looking physique. I won't be surprised if the eyes with a smile also harmonize perfectly on a pretty face. The reason for such hatred is unknown to me, therefore, after seeing the girl with his eyes to the swing, he immediately pulled himself away. Here he is, the third Hokage with his speech. Damn boring action, mentally rolling his eyes and yawning, he muttered. As soon as the speech ended, we immediately dispersed into classes. It was nice to notice that it was that girl hated by others who was in my class. Following her with my eyes again, but already to the back desk, which is near the window, I hurried to take a seat next to her. After everyone sat down in the classroom, our teacher flew in, introducing himself as Irika-sensei. After a short introduction, he held up a magazine and warned that those who were named should stand up and introduce themselves. The nearby blonde, apparently, was not listening to anything, plunging headlong into her own thoughts. Out of the corner of my ear noticed that my name was called. "My name is Shikamaru Nara," the girl sitting next to her shuddered, apparently not noticing that I sat next to her. "I like to sleep and look at the clouds," I continued. "I don't like to do something. The dream is to do nothing for the rest of your life." After introducing myself briefly, I immediately took a seated position. Nodding, the teacher glanced briefly at the magazine and continued. "And the last one in turn is Naruto Uzumaki." Out of the corner of my eye I noticed that she shuddered again. End of Shikamaru's POV. Nodding, Naruto rose from her seat and stared at the desk in confusion. POV Naruto. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," I murmured in a worried voice. "I like to train and cook. I don't like being angry at me. The dream is to rid the world of evil." I wanted to add something, but the silence that reigned only aggravated my situation. "This is a stupid dream, because there is no world without evil," I finished quickly sitting in my seat and sticking my head in the desk from embarrassment. Why are they all looking at me? I told the truth, and they probably hated me even more. Also this boy next to me, why didn't I notice him? Strange. There is nothing strange here, because you were so carried away talking to me that you even listened to the speech of the teacher. I'm not talking about the boy who sat next to me, a voice sounded in my head with a bit of malice. Well, Kurama. Don't get in my mind. And anyway, I'm still pretty weak. You need to train more and become stronger in order to stop these mockeries and persecutions. The girl began briskly, reduced her ardor towards the end of the tirade, sighing sadly. You know, for your age you are quite strong. Maybe the level of an average genin without chakra, despite the fact that you are already trained in shadow cloning. But, so be it, after the lessons we will go to learn to control and feel the chakra. Keep in mind, despite all the training, you must show the average at the academy, without looking back at the fact that you memorized the academic program a couple of months ago. Hooray! The young Jinchuriki mentally exclaimed, but immediately caught herself on the question that interested her. Why do my grades have to be at the level of the average student? You don't need close attention. But I'm going to be bored. The blonde wanted to object, but she was interrupted in an instant. You'll be bored anyway, Kurama cut her off. That's all, I'm going to sleep, the demon put an end to the conversation. It's not fair. Naruto pursed her lips, but her words went unanswered. End POV Naruto. Basically, Naruto communicated only with her only friend, the fox, in every possible way, being afraid to let someone in on a cannon shot. By the way, without going far from the school topic, today they had only 2 lessons. The first was the class hour, where they were told that they would have to go through the entire course. In the second lesson, the teacher checked the physical fitness of the students. Naruto missed the classroom hour, because Kurama had already decided her academic fate as an average student for her. At the end of the second lesson, sparring was held between the students. Although Kurama had trained her, she did her best not to show off her abilities. Out of the corner of his ear overheard her name. Naruto was given to know that her sparring partner was none other than Sasuke Uchiha. To herself, the young Uzumaki noticed that he was very well built for his age, although she did not share the opinion of his newly minted fans so strongly. Pale skin, black eyes, and hair just below the chin. His hair is spiky behind. Clothing consists of a blue shirt with a stand-up collar, white shorts and oversleeves. Since he already had fans, Naruto wanted to cover his ears after he beat her. This was the first day at the academy. At the end of the school day, the blue-eyed girl went to training ground number 3. The landfill itself was rather stunted, and was almost unvisited, because it was the furthest from the center. It is worth noting that she even found weapons there, like the same kunai, shurikens, and even senbons. Of course, the find was quickly used in training. Uzumaki could handle throwing weapons well, only slightly falling short of 10 out of 10. Approaching the intended place, Naruto noticed to herself that fate was mocking, clearly not being on her side. Near the entrance to the site hung around a crowd of boys. Hey, where are you going, demon? Upon seeing, the hooligans immediately called out to her. Do you want us to teach you a lesson? With obvious mockery shouted, obviously, the main one of them. Naruto wanted to retreat, but before she could, she was grabbed by the hair and thrown into a tree trunk, after which they began to beat her with their feet. The boys obviously tried to inflict as many injuries as possible, shed more demonic blood. Apparently, this was not enough for the most important of the boys, and the brick that turned up under the arm, from where? Clearly desired to use it for other purposes. All this time, Naruto was lying down, coughing up blood, but as soon as she saw that one of the boys was swinging a brick. POV Naruto. I see one of the guys swinging a brick, but the next moment he just froze in place. There was no blow. Completely without a clue what was happening, I was in someone's arms in an instant. The only thing I managed to notice before falling into darkness was dark hair tied in a high ponytail. End POV Naruto. POV Shikamaru. Not only was the day extremely boring, but Chuji also got sick. There were 2 lessons at the academy. It's easy to guess that both were pretty boring. There was a desire to approach Naruto's classmate after school, but she was gone. Left without a prize, I decided to go to the house. By the way, I was walking a long road, where few people live for unknown reasons. I don't know why I chose such a strenuous path, but my intuition held at times about it. Before reaching the 3rd training ground, and this is how my path was made, I heard quiet screams in the alley, and some suspicious activity. Even if I was too lazy to look, but curiosity got the better of me. Behind the alley itself, I noticed some kind of scuffle. Guys my age were tormented by someone. I took a closer look and examined exactly the target that I was looking for during the day. It was Naruto. Some incomprehensible, irresistible feeling took over me. As soon as I saw one of them swinging a brick to strike, my legs themselves carried me to save their son. I wonder when she became mine, though. What's the difference? It's good that clan children are taught techniques from the age of 3, in order to defend themselves, to protect others. By using one of the simple clan jutsu to delay these fools for a couple of seconds. Fortunately, there was enough time to pick up Naruto in his arms and retreat from the scene. Naruto was in a deplorable state, which was visible to the naked eye. I had no choice but to go to the hospital. As soon as I ran in, I almost ran into one of the nurses. "Help her. Help me please." Breaking into a cry, I pushed the nearest one. With obvious concern, she moved towards me, but as soon as she saw who was in my arms, her gaze instantly changed, from worried to clearly annoyed. "There are no beds in the hospital. Go away." She growled angrily, "Yes, shout less until the patients are awakened." After finishing their angry tirade, we were simply thrown out. Words cannot express how angry I was, but my condition faded into the background as soon as I remembered my burden. It took a second to make a decision, to bring her to his house so that her parents would take care of her, and then find out the reason for such hatred. There was no need to worry about her parents. I was almost sure that her parents would accept her. Yet, unlike other adults who looked at the girl with contempt, mine had some interest. Who does not take risks does not drink champagne. How problematic. As soon as I flied into the clan dojo, I saw my mother on the threshold, clearly waiting for me. "Mom, help Naruto, please." Immediately from the threshold I refill it with a desperate cry, reeking of wheezing. Still, such a run around Konoha is clearly not easy for me. Mother wanted to object something, but I had to abruptly interrupt her. We were in the hospital, but we were escorted out almost immediately. "You are my last hope." Only after that did my mother pay attention to my burden. As soon as she saw the tortured girl, completely injured, she heard something like, "Kami-sama." Mother immediately took Naruto from my hands and disappeared behind the threshold in the house. I was about to follow her, but my father immediately called me to the kitchen. Sitting down at the table, he folded his palms into the castle and looked thoughtfully into my eyes. He's clearly thinking about something. Sitting up against him, the father did not play a trick, but asked a question directly. "What do you want to know?" Please note that I have no right to divulge everything. Firstly, I want to know the reason for such obvious aggression towards her. Second, why isn't anyone looking after her? Why is the third one sitting idly by, turning a blind eye to these beatings? It seems to me that this is not the first time. I tried to speak calmly, but a small tremor in my voice clearly betrayed quiet anger. "You know, this information is classified as secret," Shikaku said after a moment of thought. "But if you care about her, I will answer your questions," my father replied in a low, ingratiating voice. "You know about the Kyubi no Yoko attack on Konoha 8 years ago. He gave his own life to seal the demon in a human child," the father began to explain. A second later, all I could do was nod, signaling that I was ready for further explanation. "Who do you think that child is? Who is this unfortunate child?" Slowly, insinuatingly my father asked questions, looking intently into my eyes. At first I was puzzled, but then it dawned on me. "Really, Naruto?" I received an affirmative nod. "So that's why she avoids everyone. There are foxes in her, and people consider her the incarnation of a demon, and therefore they take out their anger on her." I was bursting with rage. I involuntarily clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white. "She's holding back the Kyubi and they're treating her so cruelly." Almost breaking into a cry, without holding back, I poured out a tirade. "How dare they? She lets them live every day in peace, becoming a vessel for the Kyubi, and they refer to her like that. I blurted out angrily, looking my father in the eyes. Shikamaru, calm down. You won't do anything anymore. People are such creatures, what they cannot curb, they are afraid of, becomes the target of contempt, ridicule. This is what happened to Naruto, the villagers are simply afraid of her. More precisely, that they are afraid of what is inside her, the father corrected himself. Silence reigned in the kitchen as I considered the information I had received. Regarding the second question, why is no one looking after her? The father continued his explanation. As it turns out, this is corny, not trusted. The Hokage cannot do anything, the elders and almost all clans put pressure on him. After another pause, I asked another series of questions. What does almost all clans mean? How many of these clans that protected Naruto? I roughly understand that if it were not for these clans, then the world of Naruto would not be seen. After all, the Jinchuriki is the village's great fighting power. Albeit involuntarily, do the Biju help their jailers? Regeneration, powerful chakra, only a small fraction of the pluses. I'm right about what was said recently, right? I summed up, but did not calm down, but immediately added, the clans that supported the quiet life of the Jinchuriki, the Inoshikacho trio, de Sandame, right? I finished my thought. You are absolutely right, my father confirmed my thoughts. There were 3 clans, our Nara clan, the Yamanaka clan, and the Akimichi clan with a past Kage to boot. We all knew the past of the Yondaime and could not allow his daughter to be killed. After a difficult conversation, each of us simply remained silent, digesting information like food. A few minutes later, footsteps were heard approaching the kitchen. What about Naruto? I blurted out the first question on my mind when my mother visited the kitchen. Now everything is all right. I washed her and dressed her wounds, after which I put her in the living room, the mother informed. I am extremely shocked at her many wounds. Well done, Shikamaru, for not losing his mind after the hospital, bringing her to our house. It will be better if you continue to protect her. End of Shikamaru's POV. POV Naruto. I'm just starting to come around. The first thought that came to mind was, where am I? If you listen to the sensations, then I'm lying on something soft. This is definitely not my bed. Where I am? A hospital bed is much tougher. Actually, like my own bed. I tried to open my eyes, but the first attempt failed. In general, no attempt succeeded. In my current state, this is too much work for me. Leaving my mortal carcass, I hurried to go to Kurama. Perhaps he can answer my question. Having descended into the subconscious, I still watched the already familiar golden cage, behind which the Nine-Tails sniffled. Passing between the bars, I touched his nose with my palm, stroking it lightly. Slowly but surely, Kurama opened his large red eyes, with black, vertical pupils. What happened, Kuramushka? Out of habit, I turned to him like that, because he doesn't mind. After all, he is the closest being to me, almost being my elder brother. Everyone hates me except him. He is alone to me with all his heart, he knows me like his tails, and I have known him well over the years. You were attacked again. After which you lost consciousness, Kurama described the situation to me, closing his eyelids. And what do you want to do? I don't even know where I am, I exclaimed in bewilderment, absolutely not sharing calmness with him. Baby, calm down. I'm there, which means everything will be fine, the fox assured me. I didn't pay any attention to that kind of thing. He always calls me that, in an attempt to calm me down when I get out of balance. At the moment, I am healing your wounds, although I haven't finished yet. Even though I am the great Kyubi no Yoko, I am not omnipotent at the moment. Now you should feel pain only in your arm, because I didn't get to it, the fox reported to me about the situation with the body. And now, if you please, disappear, the interlocutor said, falling into a slumber, putting an end to the dialogue. Apparently, even for him, such work on the body is not so easy and tiring. I accept another fight with heavy eyelids. With great difficulty, but I did it. As soon as I turned my head, I immediately noticed that the room where I was made in bright colors. To the left of me is a bed, next to which are 2 light bedside tables. On each of the bedside tables are beige lamps. On the right side of the bed you can see a window that was covered with fluffy curtains. Above the bed are photographs with natural landscapes. There was a carpet on the floor, judging by the appearance, by the way, soft. There was a bookcase in front of me, and on the left was a brown door. The room was dark, and outside the window, as she could see, it was already dusk. Dangling my legs from the bed, I immediately tried to take a sitting position. Success, though not without difficulty. Now I already feel the soft surface of the carpet, I run my feet over it, I feel how the fibers of the carpet tickle my feet. So glad. Not what I have at home. I went to the door and slowly opened it, trying not to make a sound. Again success. I catch myself thinking that as a shinobi I have already succeeded. Looking around the dark corridor, I immediately saw the stairs. Going down it, I drew attention to the door in front of me, which was just the entrance. Without a second thought, I wanted to leave, not even paying attention that I was barefoot, and without warm clothes. It was indifferent, not used to it. Halfway through, I noticed a room from which a dim light was coming. There was no door, just an archway. Being a rather curious person from birth, I immediately wanted to look at what was there, completely ignoring caution. Curiosity always got the better of me. I want to see what's there, although it's scary horror, but curiosity always got the better of me. Since my eyes had not yet adjusted to the light, I could only see 3 blurry silhouettes in the room. Finally, pulling my eyes, I still managed to see everything in more detail. A man was sitting on the couch, and right in front of him was a boy. Next to them now and then a woman scurried from side to side. By the way, the woman is quite pretty, long, brown hair, expressive brown eyes. She was wearing a red dress with an apron over it. And slippers on the feet. The man has dark hair in a ponytail, rather tanned, swarthy skin. A neat, short beard is visible on the face. There are 2 large scars on the face on the right side of the face, and a smaller scar near the left temple. He wore a mesh t-shirt with a chunin vest over it. Dark pants and standard shinobi shoes. The boy at the table was none other than Shikamaru. "Stop hiding, come out," a rough male voice was heard from the room. Surprised, my legs almost buckled. End POV Naruto. POV Shikamaru. Being in their thoughts with their father, they sat on the sofa. Mother kept running back and forth, cooking something in the kitchen. I wouldn't be surprised if she relieved stress in this way. "Stop hiding, come out," the father seemed to say into the void. At first I did not understand who it was addressed to, but after the very first thoughts, I involuntarily looked back towards the doorway, in which Naruto was already standing. She was beautiful, a yellow knee-length dress harmonized perfectly with her hair color. It's a pity, of course, because of the bangs, the eyes were not visible. "Forgive me," she stammered, bowing slightly, stuttering. I still don't understand why she asks for forgiveness. After a short pause, Naruto continued. "Inen have no den-neg, what the hell is she talking about? Doesn't she think we'll charge her for kindness?" Her tense state was felt almost physically. I wanted to object, but the mother who came up approached, squatted down in front of her, and simply hugged her. End of Shikamaru's POV. When the mother of the family hugged Naruto, she felt strange, hitherto not feeling like this. She immediately hurried to turn to her friend. "Kurama, what is this feeling? What is she doing?" the fox girl asked with a little concern in her voice. "This, my dear, is love and care. She does not feel hatred or fear for you," the fox began. "It's better to ask yourself what she's doing," the fox abruptly cut off the answer. He didn't dislike her, no. He knows how to feel the emotions of other people, therefore he is well aware that it is with them that she can be herself. From people who do not feel hostility towards her. Sorry, but what are you doing? Naruto asked the woman hesitantly, feeling a little out of sorts. How is that? I hug you so that you are not afraid. You're trembling like an aspen leaf, the woman reassured her with care in her voice. Are you hungry? Wow, how skinny. Even if you look like a princess in a dress, you also need to follow the right nutrition. And aren't you cold barefoot on the floor? Continuing to fill the shy girl with questions, the woman pressed on. Hug, Uzumaki whispered as if tasting the word. Why yes, only now the girl drew attention to her clothes, a cursory glance ran over herself. She knew for sure that these were not her clothes. No, it's not cold, I'm already used to it. She answered the last question with a radiant smile. She noted to herself that these were the first people she smiled at. I'm used to it, Nara's mother repeated after her with only sadness in her voice. You can't get used to something like that. From now on, you will get used to care, the woman told the girl with a friendly smile. Am I right, Shikaku? Yes, the head of the family echoed the woman, unable to hold back a barely noticeable smile on his lips. Well, now is the time to introduce yourself, young lady, the woman continued, turning her attention back to Naruto. The boy's name is Shikamaru Nara, and the man behind is Shikaku. My name is Yoshino. Naruto will never forget this day. It was a day comparable to when she found her first friend in the Kyubi no Yoko. This night was full of smiles, laughter, and that homely warmth and comfort that she lacked so much. The family went to bed quite late, leaving the sunny girl to spend the night in her house. Barely waking up in the morning, our heroine first went down into the subconscious in order to greet Kurama and find out his answer to the question of what, in fact, to do. Good morning, Kurama, the girl immediately started her record, clinging to her friend's nose. Hey, little one. Opening one eye, he tossed his Kyubi coin as well. I want to know what you think of those people who took care of me. Naruto was extremely worried about what Kurama would say, because she fucking liked such a society, a warm attitude. Do as your heart tells you, but always remember one thing, I will always be there. And now shove, don't bother me to sleep, the girl's interlocutor rapped out. Naruto emerged from the subconscious, and, blinking her eyes funny, sat on the bed, plunging headlong into her thoughts. Well, Kurama, the sly fox, just took me out and kicked me out. Doesn't feel sorry for me at all. So you have to choose what your heart tells you. A second later, Naruto placed her hand on her chest. I don't understand what it says, but I like Shikaku-san, Yoshino-san and Shikamaru-kun. In their eyes, there was no that inherent in the rest of the malice. For the rest of the evening, I talked with Shikamaru-kun without feeling any discomfort. Everything is fine, of course, but I missed training yesterday. So today I have to fulfill my own standards twice, Uzumaki expressed her thoughts with complete confidence in her voice. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, which means I'll be in time for a run. Academic classes start at 9. Along the way, I'll have time to change at home, otherwise I feel a little awkward in this dress, Naruto concluded. Leaving the room where Uzumaki spent the night, she immediately hurried to the stairs. It was not destined to reach the destination. Shikamaru, who came out of nowhere, collided with our heroine's foreheads, not noticing each other, being in his own thoughts. The Uzumaki's head was filled with upcoming training, while Nara thought about meeting the Uzumaki again near the ill-fated training ground, after graduating from the academy. Sorry, the young Nara began, how did you sleep? Giving a hand and rubbing his bruised forehead, the boy hastened to ask a question. Good. I liked it. The same immediate response from Naruto. Coming to her senses, she still accepted the offered helping hand. And how did you sleep? It's fine, Shikamaru assured him, even though he was able to fall asleep in the early morning due to the thought that the Uzumaki was sleeping in the next room. After an awkward silence, they still managed to go to the kitchen. Shikamaru's mother gave herself completely to her occupation, conjuring over the stove, and her husband delved into the newspaper, sprawled on the sofa. Although Naruto felt a certain awkwardness, she tried to leave such a warm nest as soon as possible, but she was mercilessly stopped by the iron pretext, eat, otherwise she's very thin. Good morning Naruto, Shikamaru, the mother of the family immediately greeted the children. Sit down for breakfast, she said, gesturing to sit down at the table. A couple of young shinobi had no choice but to obey. Quickly finishing her breakfast, Naruto was about to say goodbye when she was stopped again. Naruto, can I train with you? Nara Jr. voiced his question. Why yes, Naruto replied with a slight hesitation, only I should visit the house beforehand and change my clothes. It's a little strange for me to wear this kind of thing, she continued, referring to dresses. Somewhere in the back of her mind, the girl was worried, because she had not received guests for a long time, although she felt that she could trust this person. After leaving the Nara estate, they proceeded to Naruto's house as planned. Shikamaru in his mind gave a diva that his newly made girlfriend not only moved like a shadow, but also led in strange, roundabout ways. Upon arriving at the Nara house, the younger one again lamented in his thoughts, how can one live in this musty little house? He will not order to stand for a long time. And indeed, even though it was a two-story dorm, the only tenant here was only Naruto. The first surprises were already near the entrance to the housing. The entire front door was covered with all sorts of insults and wishes for a long life. Immediately darting inside, Naruto disappeared into the restroom, while Shikamaru went into the kitchen. The house itself was clean and comfortable, but the furniture was obviously old, shabby up and down, obviously not fit for use. It can be seen that the furniture has repeatedly tried to repair. Slipping out of the restroom and finishing her business, Naruto hurried to the training ground with her guest. In a similar rhythm passed each subsequent day. The day Shikamaru and Kurama meet. POV Naruto. I can't sleep all night because of that damn thought. I wanted so badly to tell Shikamaru about Ko, but at the same time, I'm afraid that Shikamaru-kun will destroy any relationship after he finds out everything. Hoping to hear advice from a wise brother, I have no choice but to ask him myself. Kurama, please help. In the hope of a good answer, I asked the fox. I want to tell him everything, but at the same time I'm afraid of losing a friend. What should I do? Almost breaking into a cry, I did not stop pouring questions on him. By the way, please note that we signed an agreement with which I can summon Kurama to the real world. Something akin to a summoning. As Ku had said, but in a much more miniature form. First, calm down, young Uzumaki, the fox snarled. Your subconscious mind is directly connected to emotions. Not only is the water already up to its tails, so you also decided to make it rain here? Do you really want my hair to turn into hanging patches? He muttered irritably, then turned away and laid his head on his paws. Solve issues with self-torment yourself. The point in the dialogue is set, and the mumbling fox grandfather left me face to face with problems. So be it. Training in 2 hours. There was only time left to put his thoughts in order, and cook a couple of breakfasts for himself and Shikamaru. End POV Naruto. 2 hours later, Naruto was already under one of the trees of the third range, diligently thinking about something. Morning, Shikamaru greeted his interlocutor slowly, barely holding back his yawn. What were you thinking about? Hello. Smiling, she hurried to greet Naruto as well. About the urgent. Will you have breakfast? I won't refuse, the brown-haired woman agreed immediately. Even though he had breakfast with his family, he was pleased with the very thought that this girl was not too lazy to cook for him. After a sudden meal, there was an awkward pause, which the blue-eyed woman decided to mercilessly interrupt. We need to have a serious talk. Naruto's words reached the young genius. Say he's tensed up. Say nothing. But, restraining this impulse, already with a serious face, he barely perceptibly nodded, which meant readiness for listening. I think you know about the events of 8 years ago, the blonde began her story. The Yondaime Hokage gave his own life to end the destruction of the Kyubi no Yoko and seal it into a human child. I am the bearer of that same demon. After a pause, the girl finished the short story, after which she looked at the interlocutor. Finding no change in Shikamaru's face, Uzumaki continued her story. Early childhood was not the best way, constant persecution, views filled with hatred. I spent the first 3 years in a shelter, after which I was settled in one of the hostels. On that day, the whole village celebrated the victory over the nine-tailed demon and mourned for the dead. I wanted to visit one of the stores, buy a cake, for which I had to save up, constantly saving on food and things. On the way back, I looked at the setting sun disk, which is why I didn't notice the drunken shinobi walking towards me. I remember there were 3. They did not want to let me go and took out their anger on me with beatings until I lost consciousness. Strangely, I did not fall into pitch blackness, but ended up in a sewer, with a barely noticeable yellow light. In one of the huge rooms was he, the same Kyubi no Yoko that was on the other side of the huge doors. Even though I was scared at first, but literally in the next minutes I found my first friend in the face of this demon, which became my family. Therefore, Shikamaru, the young Uzumaki, stopped the story for a split second, taking a breath. I want you to get to know him. The only seal with a soft pop of smoke against the light is a miniature fox with 9 tails. POV Shikamaru. As soon as Naruto said about the serious conversation, I choked on air in my thoughts, although I did not show it. I nodded, signaling that I was ready to listen. With every second it was harder to contain the bubbling rage, but the story was coming to an end. I am extremely glad that she was able to find such a friend, but did not break under the yoke of local residents. To be honest, I was even a little embarrassed by such trust from Kurama, this is his true name, as it turned out after we met, and Naruto. Thank God no one seemed to notice. End of Shikamaru's POV. It's been a month since Naruto met Shikamaru and his parents. A lot of things have changed since then. The fox spoke openly with the lazy boy, Naruto, and the boy's parents tried not to shine once again. Brown, in turn, introduced her to his friend Choji, though Naruto didn't bond with the young Akimichi as much as he did with Shikamaru. Kurama himself had nothing against meeting him, although he sometimes grumbled about another headache that fell on his poor little head. Now the couple, after a long workout, were sitting leaning against a tree, touching each other's shoulders. On Naruto's lap was Kurama in his diminutive size, sleeping. But the girl and the boy were now quietly talking about plans for the future. After a couple of years. First day of the Genin exams. Over such a long time, our heroes have advanced not only in terms of skills, but also in personal relationships. Shikamaru, for example, to this day remembers when he first managed to get a close look at Naruto's eyes. The action itself happened quite spontaneously. Shikamaru taught Naruto how to play shogi. Naruto was quite smart, so it didn't take long to explain the rules to her. After making sure that all knowledge about the game is fixed, there is nothing left, in fact, except for the game itself. The first thing that came to their mind then was a game of desire, which causes more interest and intrigue. The first desires were quite simple, like the same physical exercises, squats, jumps. In the last game, the brown-haired man had already barely won. He caught himself thinking that her furry companion helped her friend. Since the game was the last, Nara decided on a desperate desire, to show him his eyes. At first she wondered what a stupid desire was, but having misunderstood him, she blushed, and began to refuse him in every possible way. Young Nara was like a rock, adamant in his desires, insisting on the rules of the game. The next night, he regretted his own desire. These eyes did not leave his head, continuing to shine in the back of his memory. The Uzumaki didn't get bored either. On her 10th birthday, Kurama presented a strange sword as a gift that had previously belonged to Kushina Uzumaki, her mother. The weapon itself was mutually sharp, but as soon as chakra was thrown into it, it immediately split in two. The hilt also has a distinctive feature. If the sword is connected, the hilt is black, with white diamonds. As soon as chakra was thrown at the weapon, the colors change their places, the handle becomes white, and the diamonds turn black. White ribbons and the maelstrom mark are the same curious feature of the blade. As a future shinobi, our Uzumaki has advanced far, having combed through the entire military arsenal of her father and mother up and down. With the help of chakra-conducting paper, it was possible to reveal a predisposition to all the main elements, in addition to the earth. True, she owns at the proper level only two of them. The head of the Nara clan, and part-time Shikamaru's father, sometimes helps them in these very trainings. He still doesn't know anything about Kurama, but about the real skills of our heroes, even though Shikaku has already suspected something. That's why he is the main analyst, but they don't need to know this. Shikamaru also does not stand still, even though he is a lazy animal by nature. Works on himself in the sweat of his brow in order to protect a loved one. In addition to well-honed clan techniques, he also revealed in himself a predisposition to a pair of elements, earth and water, which he tightened during this time. Only moments of rest remain unchanged, when this couple, lying under dense crowns, watches the clouds flying past or the night sky that enchants the eye. Let's go straight to the point. The upcoming exam means that those of the children who receive the title will become real shinobi, who will not have to be within four walls most of the time. After, they are waiting for more tough training, other teachers, missions. Naruto, after listening to Kurama, did not stand out from the general background, still remaining not the highest flying bird, but Shikamaru. And Shikamaru is still tense. The exam itself takes place in 3 stages. The first, written tests, theoretical knowledge; the second is accuracy testing and sparring; the third is to show any technique learned, illusory clone or henge, as a perfect example. POV Naruto. Today Shichai-kun and I will take the genin exam. We know we can turn him in without a hitch, but I chose to be bait for Mizuki-sensei, who we think is a spy. We think that the sensei can offer something interesting to the failed student. At first, Shichai-kun wanted to fight himself, but it was not difficult to dissuade him, arguing that he is the only heir of the analyst clan, while I am a hated demon who is not capable of anything. My candidacy will not arouse suspicion. First stage. It was decided that all questions, except for 2 or 3, I would fill up. Having twisted his soul at the lying, but not worried about anything brunette, all that remains is how to sigh crushingly. After yesterday's workout, even consciousness hurts from memories. He knows, after all, that I'm not averse to sniffing, but to lay down imposingly on the desk. All that was left was to accept defeat, but to tumble into Kurama for the remaining 40 minutes. The second round of exams has begun. Second stage of the exam. Immediately after the end of the written part, the children immediately left the premises, going to the internal training ground, where they will have to show their ability to handle throwing weapons. The area itself was quite large. Near the fence stood 3 mannequins, each of which had a target for throwing. Closer to the center of the yard was a sparring circle. Naruto and Shikamaru were the last ones out of the building, after which they approached the bulk of the kids that were already in front of the mannequins. It wasn't until all the genin candidates had gone outside that Mizuki-sensei also came over. A man of medium height with long, white hair and blue eyes. On the head is a shinobi bandana. He wears the standard Konohagakure no Sato attire, consisting of a green chunin vest, black pants, and the typical black shinobi sandals. The jacket has 2 pockets for storing scrolls, kunai, and various medical supplies. For protection, the jacket has a long collar and elongated shoulder pads. The Uzushiogakure symbol is embroidered on the back of the jacket, symbolizing the ties between Konoha and the fallen Uzumaki clan. Approaching, Mizuki began to call the students on the list. When it was Shikamaru's turn, it was easy to knock him out 9 out of 10 with kunai and 7 out of 10 with shuriken. The summoned Naruto was doing God knows what, supporting the mask of a simpleton. Holding 5 shells between her fingers at once, she simply threw them at random, almost piercing Mizuki, and sending the rest of the shells to hell knows where. The first part of the second stage is over. Went out of the circle, lost, put on the shoulder blades, lost. The white-haired man strictly explained the rules to the students, again looking at the list and selecting students for sparring. Chuji and Shikamaru were the first candidates. Shikamaru himself shied away from sparring, lamenting that Choji was his friend. Choji was not at all against the young Nara's decision, so the teacher had no choice but to roll his eyes in displeasure. After the fight was cancelled, our under-sparring partners moved away, standing next to Naruto. It is worth noting that they stood on each of her hands, which looked rather comical, a young guard. Choji's POV. After refusing to spar, the teacher rolled his eyes and grumbled something that I didn't pay attention to. After the failed sparring, Shikamaru and I moved towards Naru, stopping on each side of our arms, making us look like guards. I didn't mind, ignoring whispers like, demonic guard. I myself try not to pay attention to the attitude of the inhabitants towards it. Sooner or later, the hour will come when it will open to me too. It's been a few years since I've known Naruto. We have to admit that in Konoha you can often see the 3 of us. She herself became for me like a sister, which I don't have at all. I like to give short compliments in her direction, after which, blushing with embarrassment, she hides her gaze in every possible way, which looks pretty cute. In my thoughts, I did not notice how Naru went towards the circle. Sadly, her sparring partner was Sasuke Uchiha, whom I don't like, by the way. End POV Choji. POV Naruto. So it was my turn to fight. I won't say that I wanted this fight at all, but when I saw who I would fight, I sighed a little. I don't like Uchiha, everything about him annoys me. Since I have no other choice, I went into the circle and took up a fighting position. It's good that my hands don't tremble in battle, even if in everyday life I'm afraid of shadows, but, as the fox, Shikamaru, told me, and, what to hide, Chuji also had a hand in this. Somewhere in the back of the subconscious, the fox groans at foolish Jinchuriki for the chanterelle. I immediately transform in training and in combat conditions. Oh, how I cannot stand this arrogant Uchiha who is constantly trying to tease me. Although I'm used to being insulted, this guy makes me want to hit him with some kind of technique. It's a shame, I don't want to lose to him, but duty obliges me. Zu, why am I so brave only in my thoughts? What's true is true. A rough voice echoed in his head, followed by laughter. Kurama, you can't listen to other people's thoughts. I mentally pursed my lips and all that remained was for me to answer. Then I heard Sensei's voice that announced the start of the fight. I shifted my gaze to the Uchiha and braced myself. We looked at each other for a long time, but no one dared to attack first. I just stood quietly, but the first Uchiha lost his nerve, after which he rushed to the attack. We started a fight with him, no one wanted to concede. I saw surprise in Sasuke's eyes. Didn't expect this? Yes, Uzumaki is ready to turn the mountains. A successful sweep from Sasuke, due to the fact that I was distracted by Kurama saying something. Having lost my balance, I fall on one knee. The Uchiha took advantage of my confusion and punched me in the stomach. I get angry, I get up sharply and, from the turntable, I give him right in the nose. Sasuke with a characteristic pop disperses in a white haze, a clone. From the edge of my weak sensory instinct, I notice that the real Uchiha is sitting behind in a tree, but I do not pretend that I know about it. An Uchiha jumps from a tree behind me, weighing me down on my back. It cost me a titanic effort not to react to such an attack, damn it. After, it seems, losing, there is nothing left but to go to my guards. Every time I want to show Chuji, who has become like an older brother to me, that I am not so weak, but I constantly pull myself away. 2 older brothers and Shikamaru, who I probably have a crush on. I'm glad my life has changed so much. The third stage of the exam. In one of the classrooms of the academy were Iruka-sensei and Mizuki-sensei, who accepted students as examiners, causing them to create illusory clones or other techniques of this kind. Since our blonde was the last on the list, she had no choice but to bask under the warm, all-encompassing rays of the sun in one of the clearings. Although she admitted to few people, she really liked this weather. In early childhood, when the bullying of the inhabitants reached its peak, she simply found some clearing or meadow, located on it. The glare of the sun now and then played on her face, which did not bring her any discomfort, but, on the contrary, gave her some strange peace, a complete sense of calm. It is not always possible to relax, and since the turn has reached our Uzumaki, there is nothing left but to go to the examination room. How about an illusory clone, Naruto? Iruka-sensei asked with a questioning eyebrow. He also did not feel sympathy for her, therefore he wanted to quickly finish this. Nodding, Naruto performed one single seal, failing miserably. Illusions came out of her with great difficulty, although she could well resist them. Having failed the first attempt, although they gave 3, Iruka hurried to announce the result. You won't become a genin this year, Uzumaki, Iruka summed up like a sentence, praising all the gods in his mind. Come on, Iruka, maybe we'll give her another chance, she tried so hard, didn't she? Mizuki-sensei put in his 2 cents. That's the end of the exam, Iruka rumbled with barely restrained irritation, after which he calmed down and added, Naruto, you can be free. The girl only barely perceptibly nodded and hurried to leave the academy, heading for her favorite swing. Every now and then, genin and their parents scurried around, now and then sharing the fun, Naruto noticed with slight envy. Even though she told Shikamaru and Choji not to come near her for a while, she still felt a certain longing. POV Naruto. And what prompted us to this plan? Even such a short time without them makes you wrap yourself in some kind of cocoon of not the most pleasant emotions. Naruto, pull yourself together, came the soothing voice of the fox in my head. Kurama, I'm very attached to them. Come down to me. If someone approaches, then I will definitely notify you. After a little thought, I nevertheless obeyed the red-haired brother. Always remember that I will be there, little one, the fox said ingratiatingly. Cunning fox. He always says exactly what I want to hear. The gray-haired one is coming to you, they hastened to inform me. As soon as I emerged from the subconscious, I saw that Mizuki-sensei was smiling benevolently next to me. Hello again, Naruto. I'm sorry you didn't pass, but don't be mad at Iruka, he's actually pretty good, he continued trying to console. There was nothing left but to nod at him in the affirmative. Do you want to get stronger, Naruto? I can help you become a genin. The Sandaime Hokage has a scroll that describes many techniques with which you will definitely become a genin. Mizuki continued to bend his line, with an incomprehensible spark in his eyes. I had no choice but to look at him, full of hope, and nod affirmatively to his words. Shikamaru and Naruto's unusual training. How is the training of our couple going? Now we will know for sure. The most ordinary, unremarkable day in Konoha. Shinobi now and then scurry around the rooftops, completing their tasks, or returning from long-term missions to their homeland, not forgetting about their own training. Peaceful citizens now and then run around different corners of Konoha, each on his own mind, in his own business, like insects in an anthill. Day off, which means our couple got a lot of free time, which they will spend on training, not without their own desire, of course. After a short warm-up, serious workouts come to replace. Kurama, come out to train us, the young Uzumaki seemed to throw a request into the air with notes of a commanding tone. In less than a couple of seconds, a fiery red chakra begins to flow out of the seal on the stomach, transforming into a material nine-tailed fox in reduced dimensions. Not light, not dawn, but some punks wake me up, the great Kyubi no Yoko, for some kind of training, the fox growled, not without slight irritation in his voice. Train yourself, but don't bother me to sleep, turning around 180 degrees and walking away to the tree with his proud gait, raising his head high, rapped the sleepy fox. There was nothing left for the surprised pairs of eyes but to look at the arrogant fox and come to the conclusion that today you can have a day off without training. So what are we going to do, Shii-kun? Still not moving away from the behavior of the foxes, Naruto asked her question. It's stressful, the brown-haired man said dryly, already taking his place under the crowns, staring with an indistinct gaze at the clouds floating across the sky. Since then, they have been resting in this way from training, admiring the heavenly views. Then they realized that there is something much more between them than ordinary friendship, now and then enjoying their company. When some very important day comes, it is often called Day X. In our case, today is Evening X. The young Uzumaki was in one of the trees in the forest, looking at the huge scroll in her hands, and wondering about what was happening. What actually happened? Flashback. After a brief dialogue with Mizuki-sensei outside the academy, Naruto went to her favorite training ground to discuss what was happening with her close genius. Upon arrival at the training ground, it was not hidden from the blue inquisitive eyes that Shikamaru cut circles near the wooden poles, now and then diligently thinking about something. Hey, Shii-kun. Hello, Naruto. The genius left his girlfriend not without a greeting. So what? Did he come over? What did you say? The puzzled Nara bombarded him with questions one after another. Yes. An affirmative nod came up after the exam, but made it clear that he needed a scroll of the third. What are our actions? We have a plan, Shikamaru chuckled, but how to beat everything so that they give you. Shikamaru did not rush to finish, seeing how the interlocutor put her index finger to her lips, asking her to speak quieter. Shikamaru understood without words that the young Uzumaki had sensed someone. Replacing himself with an earthen clone, Shikamaru hurried to move underground, now and then approaching the intruder, whose exact coordinates the Uzumaki was now trying to find out. Although she was a censor, she was rather inexperienced, so she needed time. It is worth noting that there was a whole pile of seals against wild animals around the training ground and near it, which could work against shinobi if they were driven into a trap. The young shinobi were about to put the plan into action, when they instantly lowered their ardor. Shikaku-san, what are you doing here? With surprise in the voice was heard from the Jinchuriki. Father, what are you doing here? Nara Jr. asked his question at the same time as his girlfriend. Oh, so you're frolicking here, guys, coming out from behind a tree trunk, and rubbing his beard, the head of Nara deigned to answer, hiding from them information about the imminent banquet and Yoshino's concern for them. There is also an interesting conversation here. Let the young ninja listen to him, but they did not attach due importance to the words of the newcomer. What are you talking about? The older Nara asked bluntly. We were thinking about where to start training. Shikamaru immediately began to sculpt hunchbacked, while Naruto went behind him. Right? Shikaku inquired, still not entirely trusting the younger ones. Having dubbed the kids with a piercing look, from which they had to cringe, Nara Sr. continued, Tell me, guys. I'm sure you're hiding something. We were talking about the exercise program, Shikaku-san. Naruto's thin voice came from behind Shikamaru. Then we should inform the Hokage about your training, the elder began his bluff. Okay, Shikamaru began to prepare his story, just swear you won't tell anyone. I swear on my mind, Shikaku grunted, letting his son speak. It happened a month ago. We accidentally heard a conversation about a spy in the village and decided to bring him to light. We started to suspect Mizuki-sensei. Today our suspicions were justified. We had prepared a plan a long time ago that I didn't like, muttering the last words under his breath, Nara Jr. continued, which was Naruto's failure in the exam and the subsequent tempting offer of a traitor. After failing the exam, Mizuki-sensei actually approached her to suggest stealing the scroll of forbidden techniques from the third one in order to become stronger and pass the exam. Shikaku thought deeply. He was slightly bursting with pride for these children that they were able to figure out the spy in a month, while the great minds of the village were racking their brains for about 3 months. And Mizuki himself, in his opinion, was a rather slippery type that showed up not so long ago. Not bad, Shikamaru summed up. The children had no choice but to follow him. End of flashback. The Hokage voluntarily gave the scroll, and Naruto just sits there in disbelief, waiting. Minutes later, a rustle was heard, after which the hero of the occasion himself, Mizuki-sensei, came out into the clearing, examining the girl's niche with genuine amazement. "Oh, hello Naruto. Will you give me a scroll?" With the same spark in his eyes, the foolish teacher asked directly. "Mizuki-sensei, I don't think stealing is good. It would be better if I take it back to the Hokage." "Don't talk nonsense, demon," the teacher reacted with obvious irritation. "Do you know why everyone hates you so much? After all, a fox demon is imprisoned in you, which once nearly razed Konoha to the ground, taking many lives with it. I'm sure you yourself are a scum like him," he summed up with a grin in his voice. Somewhere in the back of my mind, the Jinchuriki began to boil. "Damn traitor dares insult my sworn brother," was the only thought that ran through her mind. "I'll bury it," the girl said out loud in a chilling voice. Just a moment and she is already next to Mizuki. A short series of blows and the offender, like a weak-willed doll, falls near the tree trunk, without having time to do anything. Shikamaru, who arrived just in time, was only able to wrap his furious girlfriend in an embrace in order to calm her down. When the conflict was resolved, nothing came to their mind, except how to shake off the unwitting carcass of the spy to the clones, so that they hand him over to the Hokage. At the end of the incident, Naruto received a well-deserved protector from the hands of the Hokage, proving her loyalty to the village and her own strength. In the evening, it was decided to come to Shikamaru's house for a dinner party, where the Inoichi and Akimichi families were also supposed to be present. On a good note, such a stressful day ended. No one wants to leave a cozy bed early for work, study, or another daily routine. Unfortunately, you don't have to choose. Especially this desire disappears after hard and painstaking training. But fate decreed otherwise today, giving our heroes time to relax. There was no training yesterday, because the newly minted genin dealt with the spy, and noted the acquired titles. As everyone went home late, no one had the desire to let Naruto go home so late, having decided that she would stay at the Nara estate for the night, again dressing her in a dress. Yoshino constantly tried to dress Naruto in a variety of outfits, never missing a chance when she visits them, although this doesn't happen very often. Today's visit was no exception. Seeing the young Uzumaki, the mother of the family decided to dress her in a white Chinese qipao with gold lining, and a painted golden dragon on her back. Although Naruto rarely allowed anyone to touch her hair, Yoshino circumvented this ailment as well, putting a marifet on the young Uzumaki's head. The go-ahead for this was given to Naruto only in honor of the holiday, sighing sadly. Getting out of bed, Naruto hurriedly left the room, quickly cleaning herself up. After waking up, she wanted to please Yoshino again with her dressing in a new dress, only after that she decided to change to her everyday clothes. After looking around the hallway, Naruto decided to visit the kitchen, where the Nara family was already in full force, what Naruto was expecting, albeit not all of them. The mother of the family conjured near the stove, the father nodded his nose, trying not to fall asleep, and the youngest waited for the soonest end of the already boring day. "Good morning," Naruto said, slightly lifting the corners of her lips into a smile. Kind, Naru, the housewife greeted her immediately. "Sit down at the table, and after breakfast you will go to the academy," the woman who constantly called her by her short name said with a smile on her face. She didn't like that her full name had something to do with the noodle heresy she was hastily throwing out. Was all Naruto replied, sitting down on the chair. After breakfast, the newly minted genin went to the academy. Naruto had already changed back into her usual clothes, after listening to Nara grumbling about how she should wear brighter clothes to look prettier, rather than things in dark colors. A new attribute in the form of a bandana flaunted on the young Uzumaki around her neck, while Shikamaru had it tied around his forearm. Upon arriving at the academy, they only hurried to take their places in anticipation of the teacher. A minute later, you could see the girlish pandemonium, now and then arguing who will be on the team with the Uchiha he fell in love with. The teacher nevertheless came, quickly calming down the children, and set about further explanations. I can congratulate you on the rank of genin. At the last word, he turned his gaze to Naruto, like most of the students. There was confusion in the air. Now, in order to distribute you into teams, I will call her number. Members of the students and their new sensei, Iruka, informed the children, after which he began to list the teams and their composition. This went on for quite some time. Naruto at this time played with kurama in words, pretending to listen, while Shikamaru remorselessly sprawled on the desk. Choji, as you might guess, rustled a bag of chips. Team 7, Iruka continued to say. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Haruno's joyful squeal and Yamanako's furious scream drowned out the students' ears at that very moment. Naruto Uzumaki and Shikamaru Nara. The mentor is Kakashi Hatake, Iruka summed up. Why should I be on the same team with these unlucky ones? Sakura wondered, pointing her fingers in the direction of our heroes. Haruno, the distribution of teams is handled by the Hokage, so all the questions are for him. Yumino rapped his temples. Our heroes at that time were in a small disorder, hoping that Chuji would be with them on the team. Apparently, Evil Rock is following them. But here's the main question. Why are there 4 of them in the team? Flashback. POV Shikaku. If you think about it, Naruto won't move from the place of the dead without Shikamaru not wanting to do anything. Knowing the Sandaime, he will 100% assign them to different teams. I just have a kid of the same age as my son, he can be sent to the team, instead of Shikamaru, and him to the Naruto team. You should take this to the Hokage. Let him grumble, but still agree. Too lazy to get up. Okay, I'll sleep for another 20 minutes and go. I concluded my thoughts on this note. The 14th of February. The 14th of February is Valentine's Day. Konoha also has it, everyone loves it, children, adults, and the elderly. Few people oppose the tradition of exchanging papers. Who doesn't love a holiday, you ask? He is not to the liking of only those who have lost a loved one, or simply those who have no one to give a card to. Of course, this holiday did without folk tales. One of the legends has been wandering around Konoha for so long that no one will even begin to remember. According to legend, in those distant and dark times, the imperious and cruel emperor came to the idea that a single man, not burdened by his wife and family, would fight more fiercely on the battlefield for the glory of Rikudo, after which he forbade marriages. Men could not marry, and women and girls to marry their favorite men. Saint Valentine was an ordinary doctor and priest who sympathized with the unfortunate lovers and secretly blessed the newlyweds from everyone. Soon the activities of Saint Valentine became known to the authorities, after which he was imprisoned and then sentenced to death. In conclusion, Saint Valentine met the warden's beautiful daughter, Julia. Before his death, the priest in love wrote a declaration of love to his beloved girl, a Valentine, where he spoke about his love, and signed it, Your Valentine. It was read after he was executed, and the execution itself took place on February 14th. They tell it even now, waving their hands and sighing heavily. Naruto moved with a casual step towards the Nara estate. Let her know that today is a day, but she had absolutely no one to spend this holiday with. And, in fact, every day spent with Shikamaru was like a holiday to her. Uzumaki approaches the clan estate, against which she is only a small insect. She does not have the courage, because she is not the first to be here. Quietly sighing, our heroine knocks. Approaching footsteps were heard outside the door, after which the door opened, revealing the blue-eyed mother of the Nara family. "Hi, can I Shikamaru?" Naruto said. "Hey Naru, why do you need Shika? Do you really want to confess your love to my son?" Yoshino murmured, covering her lips with her palm. "No, Yoshino-san, I came to practice with him." "No, no, and one more time no," the woman retorted sharply. "On Valentine's Day you shouldn't train. This is a sacrilege against Saint Valentine. Today we should rejoice and rest, not work. You know, I just bought a new dress, so let's go." The woman did not listen to any objections from Naruto, brought a not very resistant child into the house and hurried to change it into a medium-sized black dress, and placing a white bow on her chest. Even ignoring the slightly embarrassed Naruto, Yoshino led her by the hand into the kitchen. Some time later, a sleepy Shikamaru stumbles into the kitchen, provided it's already lunchtime. At first, he did not pay attention to the fact that someone might be present here, yawning shamelessly. He poured a glass of water and finally turned around to face the pair of eyes that were watching the thirsty brown-haired man. Realizing the situation, Shika blinked his eyes in surprise, almost splashing water in front of him. Good morning, I guess," Shikamaru said with an uncertain smile on his lips, while his mother chuckled into her fist and Naruto turned away shyly. "Son, not morning, but lunch. Here, Naru came to take you to training, but as you can see, she didn't succeed," Yoshino answered with a quiet chuckle. "So why are we sitting? Let's go." Taking Naruto by the hand, Nara hurried to leave the estate and go to training. They moved in an unusual way, at the behest of Shikamaru, so that no one would see Naruto in a dress. As a result, the guys came across a clearing filled with flowers, not a step without these wonderful plants. Nearby rustled a small stream, the chirping of birds reached my ears. "You can't train here," a thought popped up in two minds. They simply lay down on the flower carpet, again gazing up at the sky, now and then floating clouds back and forth. A gentle breeze blew, causing the flowers to move, enveloping the young Uzumaki from toe to toe. "It suits you," Nara said, placing another of the flowers on Uzumaki's silky hair. Blue Eyes had no choice but to look back in embarrassment. After the lineups were announced, Yumino left the class, telling us to wait for our senseis. Every minute the class became quieter, and the guys continued to decrease until the 7th team was left in splendid isolation. Sensei visited them after 2 hours of waiting. Tutor waiting time. For the first 10 minutes, Haruno sat quietly, after which she began to shoot at the Uchiha with her eyes, trying to be flirtatious due to her age. After so many futile attempts, she, unable to stand it, ran up to Sasuke, chirping about everything in the world around him, trying her best to flirt and occasionally cast glances full of irritation at Naruto and Shikamaru. "Why do I have to be with these losers on the team?" Haruno wondered. "Also, this Uzumaki, I'm sure, wants to take away my Sasuke-kun, what hair she has grown," the pink-haired one did not stop pressing in the minds. Sasuke tried to sit still the whole time, trying to ignore the irritant, questioning Kami, and even, damn it, Itachi, just to make it stop. Naruto followed Brown's lead, resting her head on the desk towards her partner. Shikamaru also held his head against the Uzumaki's face, only pretending to be asleep, watching his sunshine sleep. If you look closely, you could see how fluffy eyelashes trembled slightly. In a similar vein, 2 hours of waiting passed. An ashy-haired young man, his hair styled after a hurricane, walked slowly into the classroom. The mask covered half of the face, and Konoha's projector hid the left eye. Of the clothes, only the clothes inherent in shinobi with a jonin vest on top. "I do not like you. Let's go to the roof." After examining the team, Sensei summed up, after which he dispersed in a haze. Having dubbed the newly minted mentor sick, the 7th team nevertheless moved to the roof of the building. "I think we should start by getting to know each other. A name, a dream that you love and dislike, Hataki replied. Sensei, set an example. Sakura yelled. Hm. My name is Kakashi Hataki, I don't like much and I don't like much, and my dream does not concern you, said Hataki, after continuing. Okay, now come on, a nod towards the Uchiha. And in the end we only learned his name. Sakura squealed again, after which she quieted down and began to listen carefully to Sasuke. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I love my family and train, I do not like weak and insignificant people. The dream is to surpass your own brother, the black-haired boy said, folding his palms into the castle and resting his elbows on his knees, he finished without showing any emotion. Hm. A very good dream for a 13-year-old boy. Kakashi flashed through his thoughts, after which he continued aloud. Now you. He pointed to Sakura. My name is Sakura Haruno. What I love is a quick glance at Sasuke. What I dream about, again a look at the Uchiha and a barely audible squeak. Sensei got fed up with it and decided to stop it. What do you not like? Hataki asked. Naruto. Sakura said and put in so much anger, contempt and hatred that Naruto cringed and quietly took Shikamaru's hand, who stroked her hand in return. Yes, Sakura will drag the team down at this rate, I can even bet that she knows nothing but theory. So, there were two left, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails and the genius of the Nara clan. Something tells me these two will be very interesting, Sensei thought. Now you, he points to the genius of the Nara clan. My name is Shikamaru Nara. I like to sleep, look at clouds, be lazy and people dear to me. I don't like anger, hatred, and when someone dear to me is offended, Shikamaru, with the hand that held Naruto by the hand, squeezed harder, and with his other hand he clenched her into a fist to the whitened knuckles. He restrains himself so as not to look at Sakura, and even more so, not to hit. The dream is to always follow one person, Nara Jr. finished his tirade. Come on now, you. Sensei pointed at Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like to train and people dear to my heart, I do not like cruelty. The dream is a world without hate, although I understand that this is impossible, Naruto finished. She was very worried, and especially did not want to be heard her stuttering. From excitement, she squeezed Shikamaru's palm harder until characteristic marks began to appear. I think they won't let me get bored. Especially Shikamaru and Naruto. The girl has a rather strange dream, even if everyone has their own cockroaches in their heads, Kakashi mused, after which he added aloud. Tomorrow at 5 in the morning at the 7th training ground and it is advisable not to eat, otherwise you will feel sick. That's all for now. Sensei waved his hand and disappeared. At the end of the acquaintance, Haruno kept trying to please the Uchiha, while our pair of heroes disappeared. Who likes to get up early in the morning? Everyone wants to soak up a warm bed for a longer time, they want to watch such a coveted dream, but not everything is so simple, sooner or later you have to get up. What a difficult awakening for those who went to bed late, or for those who trained to muscle pain, not to mention combining these ailments. Here the last, just, concerns our young heroes. The last training was much tougher, because the young Uzumaki managed to piss off the fox, for which she paid for it with her companions, falling exhausted right at the training ground in the evening. By the way, the kids fell asleep in a rather funny pose. First, Shikamaru rolled onto his back, closing his eyes, after which Uzumaki rolled off next to her, slightly clinging to her partner. The blue-eyed one fell asleep pretty quickly. In a dream she shifted to the shoulder of the young genius, who at that moment had not yet had time to plunge into the realm of Morpheus. Approximately 7 in the morning, the sun has only recently begun to bestow pleasant warmth on the earth, gently awakening the guys in the clearing. As soon as Naruto noticed in what position they fell asleep, she immediately recoiled from her partner, as if from a leper, and blushed crimson. After the final awakening, the genin hurried to visit the 7th training ground, passing into Ichiraku along the way, completely forgetting about the instructions of the new sensei. The teacher was not there when they arrived, even though they were 2 hours late. "You late!" Sakura hissed angrily at the couple who came. "I came here exactly at 5, like Sasuke-kun." She continued to stick to her line. "You came at 7, and are you not ashamed? Such brainless people definitely need another year at the academy," Haruno shouted, turning purple with anger. Approaching, the pink-haired woman swung her hand and wanted to hit Naruto, because a rootless girl can be easily beaten, as she thought. Demon! Demon, he must be educated so that he does not get into other people's business. And Shikamaru was also placed fourth for a reason. Probably this brat is completely useless. Sakura angrily wanted to hit the hated girl, but her hand was stopped by none other than Nara, who angrily drilled that look. Former rage bold as a hand, she wanted to fall into the ground from this look. "Don't you dare lay a hand on her again if you don't want trouble," Shikamaru hissed without holding back. Pulling her hand out of the iron grip, Haruno hesitantly stepped back a couple of steps, completely perplexed by Nara's behavior and more imbued with anger towards this blonde. "Yo, guys," Kakashi said, after which all the genin turned their attention to him. "You late." Sakura started screaming again. "Sorry, a black cat crossed the road for me, so I had to go around," Kakashi smiled with his eye. "Yeah, how?" The pink-haired woman snorted. "So, now you will take another exam. If you don't pass, you will return to the academy," Hatake began to explain without paying any attention to Sakura. "Your task is to take the bells from me. As you can see, I have 3 of them, although there should be 2 of them, because you have one more person." The man looked around our couple of heroes with an unreadable look. "Whoever cannot take them from me, he returns to the academy. You have until 12. Did everyone understand?" With a nod to that, Sensei announced the start of the exam. We started. Everyone hid. Naruto and Shikamaru climbed a tree, hiding their chakra. Sasuke climbed into the bushes, and Sakura found shelter behind one of the tree trunks. Kakashi stood in the middle of the range, starting to read some book. "Now I will take these bells and Sasuke-kun will pay attention to me. We will become the best couple." Haruno pampered herself in her thoughts. P.F. Defeat him like 2 fingers, the young Uchiha was sure in his thoughts. "I think it will not be difficult for Naruto and me to pick up the bells, especially since I already have a plan in my head." "I'm sure Naruto is thinking the same thing," Shikamaru thought. "It will be interesting. I think it's worth knocking the book out of his hands, holding it in place for a bit, and then trying to cut off the bells." Sasuke and Sakura were supposed to hide the chakra. They are easy to spot. The Uzumaki thought over a plan of action in the stake, at the same time lamenting the carelessness of her teammates. Sasuke is in the bushes, Sakura is behind a tree, but Naruto and Shikamaru hid their presence well. "I can't find it. I think they will come to me on their own," the sensei of the 7th team finished his conclusion. "Patience isn't rubber, is it?" So Sakura thought about it, already wanting to leave her shelter. As she saw a wounded Sasuke nearby, whose clothes were even soaked in blood. "Sakura, help me," came the weak voice of the Uchiha. "Sasuke-kun." Haruno only managed to howl with a wounded beast before losing consciousness. Despite the scream that echoed around the area, no one moved from their seats. The next was Sasuke, who wanted to get closer to his teacher unnoticed. Noticing the teacher, standing with his back to him, Sasuke wanted to suddenly jump into the attack, as he was buried up to his neck in the ground. "Aye, Sasuke, you can't open your back to the enemy," Sensei's voice was heard. Sasuke could only glare at him with evil eyes, hoping to make a hole. "Remain only the actions of our couple." Naruto simply walked out to Sensei, standing in front of him in close proximity. "Kakashi-sensei, you're bored here, give us the bells, huh?" Naruto said. Kakashi was in shock, his left eye became the size of 5 cents. "Naruto, what are you thinking? you know very well that I won't just give you the bells," the calm response from Sensei. Naruto didn't like this answer. Jumping away from Sensei, she kept throwing. It wasn't hard for Kakashi to dodge everything, but the last kunai from the young kunoichi was imbued with wind chakra. Punching a hole through the book, Kakashi froze in shock for a split second. This delay was enough for Shikamaru to crawl out of the ground and immobilize Sensei with a shadow. Hatake, startled, stood in front of his new team. "So, Naruto, you have 3 bells, who will you give them to?" the ash-haired man asked. Naruto didn't hesitate to give each of them a bell, leaving herself without one. "Why did you do that? Don't you want to be a shinobi anymore?" "I want to, but..." "I don't want to either," Shikamaru interrupted Naruto and threw away his bell. "You passed. Tomorrow at 7 at the Hokage residence," their sensei snapped sharply, after which he vanished in a puff of smoke. March 8th. Beautiful words, pleasant dreams. Flowers, flowers, more flowers. Attention of relatives and friends. Yes, gold jewelry. Chic phrases, burning eyes. Flowers more than once. Men, so that someone was nearby. Not just was, but to love. Gorgeous days, I'm silent about the night. What else do I want to say? Stars in the sky, the brightest. Happy holidays, gifts. So that all dreams come true. Flowers, flowers, flowers again. Sunny, spring weather. To raise the mood. And it's not a sin to repeat here. Spring, love, flowers for everyone. Happy March 8th. Konoha also has this holiday. Right now, a boy is running at full speed to give a gift to a golden-haired girl. Rising to the 2nd floor and knocking on the door, he fell into his own memories. I involuntarily remembered how they painted the structure, giving it a more presentable look, how they repaired all the furniture in the apartment. A minute later the door opened. In the doorway stood a still sleepy girl, whose hair was sticking up in different directions. She was wearing pale orange pajamas. Blue-eyed girl had not yet fully woken up, so she did not immediately realize who she opened the door to, and when she focused her eyes and saw the boy in front of her, the girl immediately remembered what form she was in, but hastily slammed the door in front of the guest's nose. The lock clicked, and strange noises began to be heard outside the door. Something fell there, it seems that something was broken, there was a big roar in the little room. The noise died down, and the most beautiful girl in the world appeared in front of the boy, that she was so only in front of him. After standing for a while, looking at each other, the Goldilocks nevertheless invited the guest to enter, after which he invited them to the kitchen. Pouring tea into mugs, Uzumaki placed it on the table in front of Nara. "Hey, why did you come?" Naruto finally greeted him hesitantly. "Hi," the boy greeted. "How is this why?" "To congratulate you." "Of course, I can't speak beautifully, but I'll still try. As you know, today is the 8th of March and I would like to spend this day with you. They say that spring is the time of love, new life, the most beautiful moments, and not by chance. Probably, right now we congratulate women, because they embody the most wonderful spring qualities, a sunny smile, an unpredictable spring thunderstorm, tenderness and freshness of the first foliage. Happy holiday to you." After a heated monologue, the brown-haired woman held out a small, glass figurine of an angel. Naruto, when she saw the figurine, ran up to him, kissed him on the cheek, after which she put the present in the most prominent place. In such an environment, they spent the whole day. For the past hour, the 7th team has been waiting for the unpunctual sensei outside the residence in order to get another damn mission to catch a runaway cat. After some time, Kakashi-sensei deigned to appear in a puff of smoke, or, as Naruto calls him, pervert. She only spoke about the nickname Shikamaru, but why the pervert, you ask? Once she wanted to see what he constantly read, which she later regretted, passing all day with a crimson face. With little difficulty, the cat was caught. The culprit of the mission herself could only sit quietly in Naruto's arms, while the rest of the team members were not without beats. Sakura was covered in small scratches, her clothes were torn in some places, and the once styled hair turned into a kind of nest. Sasuke looked a little shabby, and only Naruto and Shikamaru looked like nothing had happened. Our mission couple just lay under a tree and looked at the slowly passing snow-white clouds. At the same time, Sasuke and Sakura were running almost all over the village after the ill-fated cat. The animal was tired of this, but she herself came to Naruto, falling asleep in her arms. Shikamaru, who took a liking to the tired animal, decided to pet her, but the animal didn't mind, only curling up tighter and purring more than ever. Their next mission passed at a similar pace. After submitting the report, the Hokage was about to give them another D-rank mission like, "Hokage-sama, we've been doing these stupid genin missions for a month now, then weed the garden, then catch the cat, give us a normal task." Sakura protested. "Sakura-chan." Kakashi wanted to politely stop him, but he was mercilessly interrupted. "So what? I'm tired of such easy missions." Haruno continued with renewed vigor. "Maybe when I show Sasuke-kun my powers, we can go on a date, and Shikamaru will be on my side, and then that stupid Uzumaki will just be kicked out of our team, and I will become the center of attention, hee." Sakura thought. "Quiet," Hiruzen muttered. "Okay, I'll give you a more difficult mission," after which he began to rummage through his papers. "Escort the bridge builder to the land of the waves and protect him until the bridge is rebuilt." The old Hokage explained the essence of the mission. "Come in, Master Tazuna." An elderly gray-haired man in glasses squeezed into the office. In his hand he held a bottle of sake, and the fumes already filled the entire office. "These kids will accompany me?" Looking around the team, the customer objected. "Are they sea-bobs at all?" "No, not like that." "Ah, shinobi. Looks like a total slut." Pointing a finger at Naruto, the old man grumbled. "You knew there was a saying, don't judge a book by its cover." Naruto Nara stood up for her, standing in front of her and covering her with his back, after which he hurried to add, "Kakashi-sensei, what time can we meet at the gate?" "So, see you in 3 hours." Saying that, the Jonin vanished into white puffs of smoke. Shikamaru grabbed Uzumaki's hand and hurriedly left the residence with her. Everyone in the office stood in a stupor, except for the Hokage, because he was sitting at the table, after which they came to their senses and began to disperse. 3 hours later, everyone was at the gate, and surprisingly, even Kakashi arrived on time. A month ago. 7 in the morning. The 7th team is standing near the residence, waiting for their sensei. First mission. Excuse me, but I will not describe their first mission and subsequent ones. I have another idea for this month. Shikamaru, a voice near the window rang out in the darkness, "Are you sleeping?" Shikamaru rolled onto his back, opened one eye and looked at the time. "No, I'm awake at 3 a.m., Shikamaru thinks. He did not recognize the voice, so we can imagine the reaction of any person who is awakened at 3 a.m. "Yes, I'm sleeping," the boy replied angrily, after which he turned his back on the guest on the bed, despite the fact that his voice was hoarse, as after crying. Only then it dawned on him. He quickly got up to have time to intercept the thin handle. "Sorry, Naru, I didn't recognize you." He put her on his knees, began to stroke her long soft hair. "What's happened?" I found out about the Uzumaki clan. It doesn't exist anymore. The members of this clan are scattered all over the world, and only a few survived. Only ruins remained of Uzushigakure." Tears rolled down the girl's cheeks. "Calm down, hush, hush," Shikamaru continued to calm the girl, not stopping stroking the one. "Everything will be fine, just calm down. You know, I recently signed a draft contract here. Let's send my beast there to look at Uzushigakure, and then tell us how it is, okay?" Shikamaru said in a gentle voice. Naruto just nodded. Nara put the girl on the bed, and he got up, bit his finger and began to fold the seals, after which he leaned his palm on the floor. Summoning technique, a tie of seals spread from the place of contact, after which a large-sized wolf appeared from the clouds of smoke. You could have time to notice the brown coloring of the wool and the piercing gaze of the blue eyes of the beast. Your name was Mr. Nara. Isami, I need you to come to Uzushiogakure and scout everything there, and then explain what is going on there. Understood? Yes, the wolf bowed his head and disappeared at the same moment. 5 days later, the training ground, where our heroes were, was visited by the already familiar wolf. Good afternoon, sir, the wolf greeted, giving the fox a suspicious look. Did you do your job, Isami? Shikamaru said. Yes, there are actually ruins. I explored every corner there and found only a scroll of summoning, on which was the inscription, Kushina's girl. I don't know what that means, but I guess this call belonged to your mother. The wolf turned to Naruto, after which he gave her the scroll. Is this the end of my mission? Yes, go, the boy replied, after which the wolf immediately returned to his domain. Shikakun, what does that mean? Is this my mom's scroll? Naruto's voice trembled, which did not disappear from the eyes of her companion. Shikamaru walked over and hugged her. I suppose you need to sign it, in honor of your mother, it should fit, no matter how you have her blood, Kurama advised. Naruto took the scroll with trembling hands. She was reading how to sign such scrolls, and when she opened it, she saw that there was only, that did not belong to her mother. There was the name Kasakomi Uzumaki. Goldilocks signed it with great excitement, after which Nara explained the principle of the summoning technique to her. From the first attempt, no one succeeds, but somewhere around the 20th young Uzumaki succeeded, a small red kitten was born. Hello. The kitten greeted, come with me, Kushina. He said, after which he and Naruto disappeared the young genius and the Kyuubi. The girl did not have time to answer anything, as she ended up in a beautiful clearing that was completely dotted with flowers. Follow me, Kushina-chan, the cat continued to say and skip. Naruto had no choice but to follow. Wait, I'm not Ku, she wanted to explain, but she was interrupted. Haha, you finally arrived. Oh, look, we have come, said the kitten. A beautiful view opened up in front of her. In this clearing there was a beautiful large waterfall, and behind the waterfall itself a palace of unheard of dimensions could be seen. I didn't introduce myself, what an oversight on my part. My name is Ayumi. Passing to the majestic building, they hurried to enter inside. The room was beautiful, almost everything consisted of gold. Passing into the gigantic hall, apparently the throne room, one could see a white lion proudly sitting there. Hello, dear Kushina, the lion replied, I have been called Oba for several centuries now. Sorry, but my name isn't Kushina, it's Naruto. I am her daughter, my mother is no more, she died when I was born, Naruto explained to them sadly. Is that so? I'm sorry for your loss. Since you were here, you found a scroll, which, in fact, moved you here, to this wonderful world. You know, if it were someone in your place who didn't have the blood of the Princess Uzumaki in their veins, they would just get killed. If you are her daughter and you have signed our contract, then we will be happy to serve you, heiress. Hearing this, cats of all sizes appeared around the girl, from small to large, from domestic to wild, all bowing their heads in front of the young Uzumaki. The girl stayed there until the evening and asked them to rebuild her real homeland, Uzushio. By the end of the day, she was sent home, where Shikamaru was already languishing from nerves and worries. A month later. After Naruto visited Mount Gilan, that very cat's abode, several days had already passed, after which she was offered to train there. At first, Naruto was hesitant to answer, thinking she needed to discuss this with Shikamaru. POV Naruto. What should I do? On the one hand, I want to go, but on the other hand, I'm afraid of losing touch with Shii-kun. How can I tell him everything? Small, don't cry, your precious one won't go anywhere, but you should be aware of the matter, Kurama was heard. Yes, I think you're right, I'll tell him everything now. There is one question that torments me here, the fox drawled thoughtfully. Which? I'm at a loss. What do you want to do with the maelstrom? I want to recreate it. At first it will be something like a small organization, after which we will not notice how it grows, I replied with a smile. Okay, I don't have time to talk to you, I'll go find Shii-kun. End POV Naruto. Our little heroine likes to come home late to Shikamaru's house. She likes the look of his peaceful face when he sleeps and when he is sleepy. Our young kunoichi wanted to visit the bedroom through the window, but did not notice the trap. Shii-kun, this is not fair. Naruto whined. Why Naru? It's all fair, you like to wake me up in the middle of the night, so I caught you. Grinning slightly, Nara nevertheless rescued the captive. P.F. Our heroine puffed out her cheeks, but she could not be angry for a long time. Pouncing on him, but filling up on the floor, she asked the question that tormented her. Shii-kun, what should I do? What are you talking about, Naru? Shikamaru sat up, rubbing the back of his head and hugging the girl with one arm. I was invited to train on the Mountain of Cats, and I came to consult with you. Naru said with a serious face. Shikamaru looked a little surprised, but then patted her on the head. It's okay, go, just leave your clone here, he smiled. Shika was happy for her. No, before you leave, you must say what the maelstrom will be called. Rising Sun. She thought for a moment and then smiled. After that, Naruto stood up and folded the seal of cloning, a copy of it formed next to her. Kissing Shikamaru on the cheek, the Uzumaki vanished with a pop, heading for her summoning domain. After that, Naruto trained on the mountain, and Shikamaru at the same time also did not sit idle, setting off in training in all serious ways. Present tense. A lot happened in that month. Shikamaru dreamed of a blue-eyed son, Naruto dreamed of his Shii-kun. Sasuke recognized Shirku as a worthy teammate. All the way to the land of waves, Naruto stayed close to Shikamaru while Sakura pestered Sasuke and did not forget to throw angry glances at the Uzumaki. Tazuna is drinking as usual and Kakashi is reading his book. You might think that everything is fine, you can be careless, but... Our Goldilocks took her companion by the hand, nodding at a puddle a little further away. Shikamaru understood her without a word, discreetly placing his hand on the hilt of the kunai. As soon as they went a little further, the mentor's torn body falls to the ground like a weak-willed doll. As soon as they go a little further, the mentor's torn body falls to the ground like a weak-willed doll. Sakura, who was near the ash-haired one, squealed piercingly. Sasuke froze in mute shock. A little later, two people came out of the forest thicket. The first was of medium height, with long dark brown hair and dark eyes. He wore a respirator that concealed the lower half of his face, as well as a clawed glove on his left hand with a chain extending out, the end of which was attached to the other glove. The man was wearing a camouflage suit with bandages around his waist, several pouches of weapons, and knee-high dark sandals. The protector on the forehead had a pattern in the form of paired horns. His partner was also of average height. He has short blonde hair and blue eyes. The same respirator that hides the lower half of his face, and the same clawed glove as the first, with the difference that the chain came out of the right glove, closing on the left. He is also dressed in a camouflage suit with a bandage around the waist, low sandals, a torn black cloak and a protector similar to the first. Naruto, which is not strange, was trembling, although it was not clear whether it was from fear or from anticipation of the battle. The girl knew perfectly well that Kakashi was sitting on one of the branches of the tree and was watching them, and that it was impossible for the time being to show all her strength. Shikamaru, in tension, analyzed the situation, although he did not show it, standing completely relaxed. His hands were in his pockets, and his attentive gaze was directed at the Nukanins. The boy guessed that their teacher was alive. Well, there's no way a Jonin who used to be in the ANBU, and even with a Sharingan to boot, could not die so easily, thought Shikamaru. The Nukanins, looking around at our pair, decided to knock out Naruto first, believing that she was the weak link. They wanted to equal the attack, but their plans changed dramatically. The new target was Haruno. Nara didn't take this into account immediately, so she managed to block the attack aimed at the pink-haired girl at the cost of damage to her arm. Her high speed allowed her to shield Haruno from the attack even though she was injured. Shikamaru, seeing this, was seized by anger, sent to God knows where, on himself, on Sakura, or on mercenaries. Taking advantage of the hitch of the enemy, he nevertheless began to act. Massive shadow capture. Nara's technique found its target, and Sasuke, who arrived in time, knocked out two enemies, taking advantage of the situation. Naru, at that time, squeezed her bleeding palm, clenching her teeth and enduring a sharp pain. "Well done, guys," Kakashi said, jumping down to us, smiling with his eye. "Kakashi-sensei, you can't. I thought you were dead." Sakura screamed. Sasuke threw an unreadable look at Shikamaru, promising to surpass him in his thoughts, and then his ill-fated brother. Turning away, he simply put his hands in his pockets, showing his superiority in this situation. "Sakura, but you behaved very badly," the teacher said in a serious tone. "You just stood there and did nothing. If not for Naruto, you would have died," Hatake scolded her. Naruto stood near the tree to which the attackers were tied and held on to his injured hand. Shikamaru hurried over to her. "How are you?" Nara asked with concern in his voice. He still blamed himself for hurting the Uzumaki. "It's fine," the girl answered quietly, looking at the guy who came to the rescue. "Nothing is normal. There was poison on that weapon, so move less, stupid girl." The voice of the fox rumbled in his head like thunder from a clear sky. But, before she had time to finish, she was interrupted. "Shush, I said," he shut her up. Naruto just sighed. At that time, Kakashi finished chastising Sakura, after which he glanced at the customer. "You don't want to tell us anything? This is a B rank mission, not a C rank mission. Why didn't you say you had an order?" The Jonin christened him with a piercing look. The man immediately broke out in sweat and straightened his shirt. He averted his eyes to avoid looking at Hatake, which didn't add much to his confidence. "My village is very poor and I couldn't tell the truth, because then the pay would increase, and I don't have that kind of money," he stopped. "You know, if you refuse, then my children and grandson will hate you." Tazuna even shed a fake tear. Shikamaru, who had been listening to this whole conversation, frowned. Come to think of it, it's too early for them to go on such missions, and he apparently doesn't know that. Nara looked at Naruto from the corner of his eye, who was immersed in herself and supported her injured arm. "The guy is tired of this story. But we also have families, and you want us to die for the sake of your family. I have a younger sister, and this mission can deprive her of her beloved brother." The guy turned to the customer. "You could have done it with your deceit." The man was deeply moved and did not know what to say, while Shikamaru continued. "Calm down, I don't have a sister, but we have the same families as you." Tazuna felt ashamed, and Naruto felt a little sad because she did not have a father and mother. But Shikamaru quickly approached her and gently hugged her, saying that he would always be there. "So, we have two options. First, we go back to the village or we go further," said Kakashi, who raised his voice after this performance. "Let's go to the village, it's still very dangerous for us, right, Sasuke-kun?" The pink-haired woman turned to her idol slightly trembling. "We've got to go and test our strength," he said dryly, looking defiantly at Shikamaru. "I don't care," the team's analyst said in the same tone, continuing to stroke Naruto's head. "We have to go," a soft blue-eyed voice was heard, after which she abruptly took out a kunai and stuck it in her wound to remove the poison. Everyone stood in shock, except for Kakashi and Shikamaru, who couldn't help it and gave a slap to the blonde top of his head. Surprisingly, only Nara and Kurama could afford to assault. Despite this, Shikamaru took out a bandage and began to bandage the Uzumaki's wound, quietly muttering something under his breath. Naruto just looked back at the time, feeling guilty for making her partner worry. Sakura, on the other hand, watched everything, being in a rage, now and then cursing at the Uzumaki that she had put herself under attack there, just to be in the center of everyone's attention. "That's nice," the ash-haired man said when the wound was finally bandaged. Then back on the road. The rest of the journey was uneventful. Having reached the shore, the team loaded into the boats, keeping the path under the bridge so as not to cause too much attention, but as soon as they sailed to their destination and left the boat, everyone was shrouded in thick fog, throwing the young shinobi into a barely noticeable shiver. The entire coast was shrouded in a thick, snow-white fog. A barely perceptible shudder struck through all the genin, while the ash-haired jonin continued to stare intently into the haze that envelopes everyone, inflating all instincts. "Lie down!" Sensei screamed as he saw the silhouette in the periphery of his vision. The genin immediately followed the mentor's command. The Uchiha and Nara hurried to knock down the bridge builder behind them, who did not dare to move from fear, while Naruto ducked Haruno behind her, chained by fear. As soon as they obeyed, in the next second a rather large sword swept over their heads, cutting through the air, and then dully stuck into the tree trunk behind. Another second of delay and someone could have been decapitated. A muscular man squatted on the sword itself, the lower half of his face covered with bandages and his hairstyle associated with a hedgehog. The outfit consisted of a dark sleeveless turtleneck and black pants, gloves on the hands, and all black sandals completed. "Wow! Whom I see is the copy ninja himself from the Leaf Village," said the man in a rough, high-pitched voice, with a hint of mock surprise barely concealed. The seventh team immediately drew attention to him. Momochi Zabuza from the Village of the Mist, a fugitive shinobi, one of the 7 swordsmen, came the answer from the sensei, who did not take his eyes off the nuke nin. Naruto, meanwhile, is closer to Shikamaru and glanced at him, passing on only familiar signs to them, what she wants to say. Nara only nodded in response and continued to look at the nuke nin intently. Goldilocks from this oppressive atmosphere began to tremble, which did not escape Haruno's attention. What a weakling she is. It's shaking with fear. And what kind of yukai did they put her in my team? Just mediocrity, the pink-haired woman thought, changing her face. She squinted at Sasuke, who she thought was looking at Naruto, even though he was looking at Shikamaru, and was biding his time. Suddenly, Sakura changed her face, became serious and began to approach Zabuza with a confident step. "I'll show you that I'm not to be underestimated. Here I can win and everyone will love me, and especially Sasuke-kun." But the plan was not destined to come true immediately. The ash-haired one stopped her, grabbing her by the brush. "Step back, Sakura, don't interfere," Hatake began in a serious tone. "What?" Haruno said indignantly. "He's not just a second-rate rogue, you don't have the experience to fight an opponent like that." "We can't do without it," Hatake continued with the seriousness inherent in the situation, after which he brought his hand to the bandana, slightly pushing it away. The Uchiha and Haruno froze with surprise on their faces, while the familiar genin couple and Zabuza did not move their eyes. The bandage concealed the Sharingan. "Thousands of techniques you have already copied, haven't you, Hatake?" Zabuza asked a question in a serious tone, not without interest examining Kakashi. "I'm truly sorry, but the old man will have to come with me." There was not a trace of regret in his voice. "What? What else is this?" Sakura thought in horror as she recoiled from her teacher. "Sherry, what?" Tazuna didn't understand. Where does his Sharingan come from? After all, only people from the Uchiha clan have it. Sasuke was confused. P.F. This is known to many. Every dog in Konoha knows about the features of our sensei, Shikamaru thought distantly, after which he noticed that the Uzumaki's face did not show surprise either. They even had similar thoughts. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Zabuza continued to glare at each other. Well, let's see what your Sharingan can do, Momochi said coldly, after which the clearing was again covered in fog. Protect Tazuna, Kakashi gave a final order before disappearing into the thick fog. The genin quickly formed a formation with Tazuna in the center. The clearing now and then carried the clanging of metal and sparks could be seen even in the seemingly impenetrable fog. Naruto didn't waste any time and made a sign of concentration with her eyes closed. Now she was immersed in scanning the area and calculating the location of the ash-haired one. It was a little difficult because the mist was 60% chakra. The fog began to disappear and now you can see how Kakashi and Zabuza himself are standing on the water. They folded the same seals at breakneck speed. Water technique, water dragon. Kakashi finished the activation a little faster. Enormous vehicles collided with each other, lifting the water column and again closing the entire view. Kakashi did not expect Zabuza to feel great in the water, so he fell into a trap. A Nukanin's hand emerged from the water, grabbing the ash-haired one by the shin, placing the opponent in a water prison. Once on the surface, Momochi stood next to the copy, and one hand was immersed in a water bubble. Well, let's play, kids. Momochi Zabuza's ominous voice was heard. Experience Day. The sketch goes to chapters 14 and 15 when Naruto hit the mountain of cats for the first time. One will not understand what roses smell like. Another will extract honey from bitter herbs. If you give someone a trifle, they will remember it forever. You will give your life to someone, but he will not understand. When a person disappears so suddenly, what do you think? When Naruto disappeared, Shikamaru was surprised at first, but then this surprise turned into panic. The boy began to look around. Naruto! Where are you? Nara began to scream in panic. He was very afraid for this blonde girl. The genius of the Nara clan began to form the summoning seals, after which a wolf appeared near him. Find Naruto, and it doesn't matter to me how, Shikamaru hissed coldly. The wolf only bowed and disappeared in clouds of smoke, realizing that now his master cannot be argued with. POV Shikamaru. What? Where is Naruto? I don't understand at all, she was right here a minute ago. We need to look again. I've been running all day looking for my Nara. Where are you? I looked up at the sky where the clouds were floating on a blue sea. What is this feeling of emptiness inside of me? I want my Naruto to be with me now, but she's gone. I put my hand in the area of my own heart. Why does it hurt so much? It also can't live without Naru. I took a couple of breaths and exhalations. I looked at the sky again. Is this feeling love? At my thought, I froze for a couple of minutes, after which I went to the place where Naruto disappeared, and sat down near the tree, leaning on the trunk. Yes, this is love. I love Naruto and can't live without her. I will protect her with all my might. End of Shikamaru's POV. In such a sickly way, the Nara genius realized his feelings for one golden-haired person. Well, let's play, kids. Zabuza Momochi said ominously. I don't want to waste my energy on pathetic children like you. Haku. The man called. Run. Kakashi mustered all his strength to yell at his students. Sakura and Tazuna quickly, as far as their speed allowed them, turned around to follow the order, but a person of unknown gender suddenly appeared in front of them. The shinobi had long brown hair, which could be seen from the strands hanging down the sides of his face. The rest of his hair was tied into a neat bun at the back of his head. Most likely, the guy had a white mask on his face that covered his entire face. You're not going anywhere, he said coldly. Naruto looked at Hatake and then looked at Shikamaru. Shichi-kun, we can't leave him, we have to save him, she spoke quietly so that no one could hear her, but Sasuke, who was standing nearby, caught the girl's words. He came closer to them and looked a little displeasedly at the guy. They say, why don't they let me in on the plans? Nara himself slightly nodded at Uzumaki's words. I'm with you, I'll help save the sensei, the Uchiha blurted out over his pride. This time he spoke in a low but confident voice. Shikamaru frowned and began to rub the bridge of his nose with his fingers as he considered all possible solutions to the situation. He has such a habit when you need to think about one thing. Okay, let's split up. Naruto and I will distract the one in the mask, and you try to somehow free the mentor. Zabuza has only one hand free, the other is immersed in water. It is necessary to pull out the busy hand that is in the water, and most likely, the technique will subside. Nara said all this intently, trying not to miss anything, because every detail is important in such a matter. He looked at Naruto and Sasuke, who just nodded. Uchiha moved away from the company and began to think about how to complete the task assigned to him. At the same time, our couple nodded to each other and fled in different directions. From these two sides they ran at the guy. Haku was watching them closely at that time. As soon as he saw their movements, he immediately began to fold the seals. Hijitsu, Makio Hyosho. The fog got thicker and rectangular tall spherical mirrors began to form out of the fog, instantly surrounding Shikamaru and Naruto. Surprise flashed across their faces, but it was quickly replaced by determination. The Nara looked at the blonde and wordlessly conveyed his idea. Naruto, the boy barely managed to say, as Uzumaki ran to one of the mirrors. Understood, whispering this, she began to fold the seals. Fire technique, fireball. The girl exhaled fire in the form of a circle and sent it to one of the mirrors. As soon as the emerging steam passed, the teenagers noticed that the technique did not cause any damage to these mirrors, but the enemy seemed to relax a little. You can't run away from here. Give up, and then your death will not be so painful. A voice with steel notes, it would seem, sounded from everywhere. Looking around, the guys noticed that he appeared in one of the mirrors, after which Naruto sent a second fireball at him. So your death will be long and painful, not the best choice, Haku finished somehow with regret. Before the ball hit the mirror, he moved to one of the mirrors behind the girl and threw a weapon at her. With his Senbon, the shinobi hit her in the shoulder. The little girl squeaked in pain and, reaching for her wounded shoulder, carefully pulled out a projectile. Shikamaru ran up to her, looking into her eyes with concern. Let's stand with our backs to each other, okay? It sounded like an order, so Naruto just nodded and pressed her back against his back. Here, from almost all sides, senbons began to fly into them. They fought back as best they could, but some of them did not notice because of the high speed, therefore, their arms and legs were already injured. The fight will be interesting, Haku thought with a slight excitement in his eyes, noticing the clear blows that the guys fought back. After all, genin strikes are much weaker than his, a professional killer. Sasuke stood to the side and out of the corner of his eye noticed what was going on with Naruto and Shikamaru. Realizing that he was distracted, he just shook his head, throwing unnecessary thoughts out of his head. So, you need to focus, the Uchiha flashed through his thoughts, after which he turned his gaze to Zabuza. Come on, Sasuke, think. What can you do? I can't handle it alone. He looked at Haruno, who was near to Zuna and seemed to be guarding him. At that moment, it dawned on the Uchiha, exactly. Lure, as I did not think before. Sasuke was glad he'd come up with a plan, but it's best not to get too excited ahead of time. The black-eyed immediately approached Sakura, which did not escape the attention of the swordsman. What, you decided to run, boy? A chuckle came from Zabuza. This situation unequivocally amused him. Uchiha looked at him with displeasure, and then began to explain Haruno's idea. I hope you understand what to do. You have only one single chance, the Sharingan bearer said coldly and stared at her with black eyes. Haruno, whether from fright or automatically, but slowed down, nodded. Sakura began to walk closer to Zabuza with timid steps and stopped halfway, then took a breath in her mouth and screamed. She added chakras to the vocal cords, and the scream, more like a screech, turned out to be very loud, most likely due to the inability to control the chakra and distribute it to the desired area. While everyone was either stunned or surprised, Sasuke wasted no time in starting to form the seals. Fire technique, large fireball. The ball flew straight at Zabuza, but he did not lose his head and stopped it with a water technique. But the man did not take into account the fact that the shuriken Fuma was flying behind the ball. The man had to remove his hand from the water balloon so as not to lose it. Kakashi got out of the prison and looked at Sasuke and Sakura with an approving look, and then the battle began. Hatake opened his Sharingan and they had a mesmerizing fight. Naruto and Shikamaru fought off the Senbon, but when they heard a screech, most likely Sakura's, they stopped for a couple of seconds, for which they paid the price. If you are distracted, then I will kill you in two, the masked boy said with displeasure. The Uzumaki looked at her partner with a questioning look. Naruto, Strategy 5, was all Shikamaru said as he began to fold the seals. The girl, meanwhile, took out the sword that was on her back, but because of her long hair, it was not visible. The girl divided it into two parts and sent wind chakra into them. Earth technique, stone bullets. The heir of Nara said the name of the technique and bullets flew out of his mouth that hit the glasses. Naruto, following these balls, began to strike with swords, due to which cuts remained on the glasses. When they finished, they stood next to each other. They were breathing heavily, and then Shikamaru realized a very important thing: there was almost no strength left. Naruto, this technique is taking away chakra, we won't last too long. This is bad. We need to get out of here somehow, only Goldilocks answered. The masked boy laughed lightly. Did you think it would be so easy to defeat me? You will die from a lack of chakra, or maybe I will kill you a little earlier, but still your death is appointed by fate. He launched a new batch of senbons. Our couple, due to lack of strength, did not fight back so energetically. Naruto's ankle was hit by a weapon, causing her to fall, holding her leg and yelping slightly in pain. As soon as she fell, senbon flew at her, but Shikamaru quickly stood in front of her, and most of the weapons crashed into his back, which made her look like a hedgehog. Naruto looked at his friend with wide eyes. Shikamaru, why? The girl says in a whisper, looking at him fearfully. The Nara pushed the bangs out of Naruto's eyes with his shaking hands. There were tears in Uzumaki's eyes that were about to roll down his striped cheeks. Because, he coughed, blood forming at the corners of his lips. Shikamaru fell to his knees. I love you, Naruto, with a gentle smile on his lips. Nara had already begun to close his eyes. Uzumaki, who arrived in time, managed to catch him, as soon as he fell on his side. No. Sasuke-kun. Don't die. I love you too. Please. No, Naruto screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. She hugged Shikamaru and cried on his shoulder. Nara was still conscious, and, hearing her words, lightly embraced her, starting to stroke her on the back. Don't cry, Naruto, tears don't suit you, Nara says quietly with a happy smile on his lips. Because he was truly happy to hear such words from a loved one. His eyes closed, after which he went limp in the kunoichi's arms. Shikun. No. POV Naruto. Why? This cannot be. Like this? I look at Shiku's body. Time has stopped for me, and the world seems to have fallen into oblivion. It seems that Kurama says something, but maybe it seemed. I wonder if he did. What did he say? But what's the difference now? I feel something wet on my cheeks, maybe it's rain. I raise my eyes to the sky, but I see nothing. There is only fog in front of my eyes. Why is it so empty inside of me? I don't feel anything, just emptiness. What happened with me? Shii-kun died, but what did he tell me? What? Oh right, he said he loves you. Whom? Me. I love him too, but I don't remember if I said it. What if she didn't say? Shii-kun knows that I love him. I look at his pale face, he has such a beautiful and sincere smile on his lips. I lightly run my fingers over his lips, being careful not to hurt her, smile. Then comes the realization that there is no longer the one whom I loved with all my heart. I don't want to live anymore. I hear a muffled scream, and when I look around I see no one. Seconds later, I realize it's my scream. Why? Why? This cannot be. Like this? I hear someone whisper, muffled, almost inaudible, I want to hear it better. What is this whisper about? Who could it be? I feel something so unfamiliar, warm enveloping me. On the one hand, so dear, but on the other, so alien. It pulls me so close, I want to be closer, I can't resist, and I don't want to at all. I began to gradually absorb this power. Now, almost absorbed, I hear such a familiar voice, in which there was so much pain and sadness. I can't hear what they're saying, but I can recognize that voice. It belongs to Kurama. I only heard one thing. Naruto. But after that, only total darkness. End POV Naruto. POV Kurama. Here's another person who died. Naru, this is life. Believe me, I know how much it hurts you, I say in a slightly saddened voice, because I was a little sad for this boy. If you think about it, I am grateful to him that he saved the girl. Naru, are you listening? I ask a question, because I hear nothing in response. In her subconscious, it became so wet, cold and dark, which meant that her spiritual state was in a bad state. Is someone walking towards me? A dark silhouette appeared from the entrance, it began to approach me. I look at him with interest, but when this silhouette came into the light, I see Naruto. No, it's Yami Naruto. Yami was very similar to Uzumaki, but only her eyes were visible, as her bangs were tucked behind her ears. Her hair was not completely golden, but with shades of black. Other clothes, she was wearing a black dress to the knee, but barefoot. The eyes were black with red pupils. I see the unconscious Naruto in her arms, after which the roar itself escapes from my mouth. End POV Kurama. What did you do to her? Kurama was very angry. Absolutely nothing. I'll just give what you can't give. Yami replies with a wild laugh. After saying that, the water underneath her began to change its color to black. This water began to envelop Naruto in a dark cocoon. Kurama rushed around the cage and did not know what to do. He looked at all this with fear and cursed the Yondaime Hokage for being locked up now, but he could not help Naruto. Then he stopped in the middle of the cage and began to scream. The cry was full of pain and sadness, the demon's red eyes were tearful, it felt like the great demon would burst into tears. Maybe it is, because he is so attached to this little coward. Living in a cage for thousands of years, in hatred, you begin to hate everyone, but a miniature sun comes that turns your world upside down. In the real world, Naruto sat for a while without moving, which was unexpected for Haku, who was watching all this. He was sorry, but he could not do anything, an order. All this time, he was absorbing Naruto's chakra, thinking that she would just fall from exhaustion and not have to shed blood, but when something began to wrap her up, he tried to absorb that too. But failed. Her chakra became poisonous, one small drop was enough to damage the chakra channels. Naruto screamed in pain, after which a powerful chakra stream shot up from her like a pillar. The chakra was so strong that all of Haku's mirrors shattered into pieces without standing for long. The heartbreaking scream stopped, but the chaotic flow continued to be released. Naruto placed Shikamaru on the ground with the utmost care, albeit on a subconscious level, before rising. She stood staggering, after which her appearance began to change, several strands of hair turned red, her eyes began to blacken, and the pupil narrowed. The stripes on the cheeks darkened, becoming even more like a mustache, the fangs lengthened, as did the nails. Behind her appeared a tail. Naruto began to look like an animal. Haku watched the whole thing with fear, but decided to attack first, angering Naruto even more. She pounced on him, breaking the remaining mirror in which the boy was sitting. With her claws, she destroyed the mask with a blow, after which she hung from above to deliver a decisive blow to Hack. The guy could not do anything, there was a monster in front of him. Sticky fear gripped his body. Farewell, Zabuza-sama, was the last thought that ran through his mind before preparing for his death. POV Naruto. I had no idea what I was doing, I surrendered to this feeling. I was in so much pain and good at the same time. I was in the dark, as if I was going with the flow. My eyes were closed, and I did not want to open them, because now there is no need. There is no need to live, there is no need to do anything, all this has lost its meaning. After all, Shikamaru is no more. What it is? Something warm slid down my back, then down my sides and stomach. I'm trying to guess what it is. I focused on the sensations, what hugged me, and these were hugs, turned out to be hands. Hands? Why? I like it so much, it's so warm. And then I hear a familiar voice, but it is so quiet, I cannot understand what he is saying. I tilt my head to the side so that I can hear, and it turns out. But you can't make out the full word. Only, on, that. What? Only one Ru is missing here and Naruto will turn out, and this is my name. But who is calling me? No. I don't want to open my eyes. The voice grew louder and seemed so familiar. Wait, it's Shikamaru, but how? I quickly opened my eyes. End POV Naruto. Currently. Naruto swung at Haku and was about to land a decisive blow, but it didn't happen. Shikamaru appeared from behind and hugged her. He desperately called for her to return to him, and not this creature that was now in front of him, because it was not a fox. And then Naruto opened her eyes, she looked at the guy in front of her in surprise, and then looked at Shikamaru. There were tears in the corners of her eyes when she saw him. Nara, in turn, only hugged her tighter and kissed her on the forehead. It's all right, calm down, everything's fine. Shikamaru found these words difficult, just as he was injured. But he wanted to stop Naruto in any way. Moreover, as he noted, the needles were not in life-threatening points. He did not want to kill me and did not kill me, he whispered in my ear so that no one would hear. Naruto, still in shock, clung to Shikamaru's back and began to cry. She buried herself somewhere in the region of the neck and cried. Her tears were both from relief and despair. Naruto only now realized that she hadn't survived if Shikamaru hadn't been around. No one saw her tears, except for Haku, who was just in front of them and looked at the whole picture. Everyone else was distracted by Zabuza. Away from the couple, there was a fight between Kakashi and Zabuza. During this fight, the teacher showed his Sharingan. Their fight was more about endurance, who has more chakra. After all, those seals that the swordsman puts together are automatically put together by the copying ninja. You know, Zabuza, I can see the future, and especially yours, Kakashi began to say in a particularly cunning way. Still, the ninja knew that he had less chakra than a swordsman, and he had to take it with cunning. The swordsman laughed in turn, yes. And what do you see in me? Hatake allowed himself a slight smirk that went unnoticed. Your death, he said coldly. At this word, Kakashi began to seal the seals faster, which did not disappear from Zabuza, but he did not have time to say anything as the ninja shouted, "Water release, water dragon." A dragon appeared from the water, made a couple of circles around itself and flew towards Zabuza. The water crashed into Zabuza and the swordsman flew into the tree. From the impact, the mercenary lost consciousness. Kakashi had just stepped ashore when he began to lose consciousness, but at that moment Sasuke caught him. He shifted his gaze from the teacher to the swordsman. In this situation, he did not know what to do. Like it or not, they forgot that there was still Haku left. During the time that Kakashi and Zabuza fought, no one paid attention to the couple that was on the sidelines. When Naruto calmed down, she pulled away from Shikamaru but took his hand and held on tight. Yet she was still afraid. The girl shifted her gaze to Haru, who sat down, but he was still a little uncomfortable. "Why didn't you aim at the dangerous spots?" Shikamaru asked a question of interest to him, which remains a mystery to him. After all, Haku could easily kill him. Kurama began to heal his wounds. It was a difficult process, since the guy's body would not have sustained the demon's chakra, so the fox first cleansed it, then passed the chakra through Naruto into his hand and it was already in Shikamaru. He healed the most dangerous wounds that were very close to the fatal points. "I don't like killing," she says somehow quietly and uncertainly. Zabuza-sama knows this and said to aim closer, and if you don't have time in time, then the person will die from chakra depletion, because with the help of my strength I can suck out chakra. The boy didn't know why he was saying all this to the kids, but he had the feeling that he could trust them. Haku lowered his head and looked down at his hands. "Who hired you?" Shikamaru continued to ask questions. The boy was attentive, but from time to time cast glances at the girl. But apparently she was talking to the fox now. "Gato, this is the most important in the country of waves." He speaks even more quietly. Every minute he became more and more afraid. Haku was at a loss, because he did not understand this at all. Why is he so afraid of children? He could still feel that terrible chakra. Here it is, now everything is clear. This bridge is not beneficial for him, judging by the stories of the old man. If it is built, then the village will live in peace. Shikamaru was thoughtful. He glanced at the battle between the sensei and the swordsman and realized that the fight would end soon. "We should meet in 5 days. Use your sunboy on Zabuza to render him unconscious. Since we still do not know what and where in the village. You should be in a clearing in the forest to talk. Do not hide your chakra, we will find you by it, and now go. If you don't, we'll find you and you'll feel bad." Haku only opened his mouth to ask, because he did not understand why he was using Sanban, but then he heard a blow, and turning his head, he saw Zabuza that he had crashed into a tree. He immediately understood everything and threw his Sanban to make it look like the swordsman lost consciousness. He quickly ran up to him, and taking the body, disappeared into the forest. All this happened very quickly. After that, everyone was silent for a while. Shikamaru pressed his forehead against Naruto's shoulder from the pain in his wounds and breathed heavily. Sasuke was in shock and could not come to his senses. He still held Kakashi. Sakura fell to the ground, her legs gave way and she fell, unable to keep her balance. Tanzina was hiding behind a tree all this time. While everyone was distracted, he managed to hide. He did not stick out until the last. Until everything is quiet. He looked out from behind a tree and when he was convinced that none of the attackers were there, he left his hiding place. "Everybody is alive?" He speaks in a somewhat unsure way. He looked around and noticed that there were no mercenaries. Then he noticed that the teacher was unconscious, and the boy was injured, and everyone else was tired. Tazuna walked up to Sasuke and took over his teacher. "Yes, follow me. My house is near." Seriously speaking. The genin exchanged glances and nodded as they followed the man. Still, they had no other choice. Naruto helped Shikamaru to get up and also to reach the seemingly small house. Inside it was big. There were 3 rooms. Kakashi was placed in one, the guys and the last girl were placed in the other. though Naruto didn't leave Shikamaru's side. She was very afraid that she might lose him. After this almost happened. 5 days later. During all these days, nothing unusual happened. Although it is from which side to look. Shikamaru and Kakashi were healing their wounds. Nara cured them quickly enough, yet the fox helped the boy. Who grunted at the fact, why should he, the nine-tailed fox, who terrifies anyone, treat some brat, but still he treated. Therefore, Shikamaru was already healthy by the 2nd day. Kakashi was so unlucky, even by the 5th day he was weak, and he was given a crutch for easier walking. Somewhere around the 3rd day, when Hatake got more or less on his feet, he led his students into the forest, where he began to teach walking on a tree. Although these lessons were no longer needed by anyone in the prince. Since Shikamaru and Sasuke belonged to the clans, and they have been taught basic techniques since childhood, such as walking on water, trees, etc., and Naruto knew how to do it and decided not to hide it, calmly followed the trail of Shikamaru, and then, they settled down under a tree, hugged each other. Their relationship became even closer after confessing to each other. However, where is closer? Sakura was able to walk the 2nd time, and then she began to make eyes at Sasuke. Kakashi, when he saw that the students did not really take anything and did not teach, just shook his head, and sent those to help and protect Tazuna. He himself went to the house reading his book. 5 days passed at this pace. Sakura pestered Sasuke, and the Uchiha was already climbing to the ceiling to hide from the annoying Haruno. Also, there wasn't a day that the pink-haired girl didn't mock Naruto. The Uzumaki and Nara simply ignored them, although they began to notice that Sasuke began to circle around them more often. Naruto and Shikamaru didn't sit still either. They asked different people. So they found out about the mercenaries, so that behind this is a certain Gato, who was very greedy and angry. And this bridge was not profitable for him. It also became known about other crimes of Gato, from other sources. On the 5th day, our couple left the house very early, still sleeping, but just in case, they left the clones to replace themselves. Now they were walking through the forest, holding hands and talking quietly. "Shii-kun, do you think they will come or not?" the girl asked softly and looked at the Nara air. Naruto didn't trust the mercenaries, but she did trust Shikamaru. Shikamaru yawned, yet it was difficult for him to wake up so early, and in general, if he had the will to sleep for days, yes, because they have no other choice. Of course, only the one who fought can come, without Zabuza. But, if I'm right, they'll be framed, and Gato will do it. No matter how, mercenaries are expensive, and judging by the stories of the inhabitants, he is not very honest, and he shook his head. Naruto thought, but Shii-kun, how can you trust them when they almost killed you, and they did? The girl stopped and looked at Shikamaru. The boy stopped behind the girl and looked at her, then he ran his hand along her cheek and brushed her hair from her face, looking into the eyes of the baby. Naruto, becoming a mercenary isn't about having an easy life. If you want to live, then you have to get out, but you can say it on your own in order to survive. You have become invisible to everyone, right? Shikamaru waited for an uncertain nod from the girl and continued. Everyone gets a second chance, especially the guy who fought against us. He did not seek to kill us, yes, that was his goal, but we would rather die from exhaustion than from his senbon. The boy smiled, then pulled away and they continued on their way. Naruto walked and thought hard about something. She realized her mistake and will try to give these mercenaries everything. Then she felt the chakra flows, and realized that these were the ones they needed. "Shii-kun," she called softly, and then pointed her finger to the side. "I can feel chakra there, most likely it's him, but I don't feel Zabuza-san's chakra." Shikamaru nodded. They hurried in that direction. After a couple of minutes, the couple came to a beautiful clearing. There was a man on it. He was picking flowers. He was wearing a beautiful yukata, his long hair was loose, he looked very much like a girl. The man turned, and how easily he could be confused. After all, he looked like a girl from the front. "Good morning." Girl bowed to them. "I already began to think that you would not come." The couple stood in shock, because at first they did not recognize this girl as a new acquaintance. But when he addressed them as a boy, they were even more shocked. The man noticed their condition and first examined himself, and then looked up at Naruto and Shikamaru. "I'm Haku." Shikamaru came to his senses first. He immediately remembered the name. After all, it was mentioned by Zabuza, referring to that Umbu. The Nara bowed and tugged at Naruto to come to her senses quickly and bow as well. Shikamaru took the first word before the Uzumaki came to her senses. "Good morning." "Sorry, we did not expect to see you in this form." The boy was embarrassed. He was ashamed that he had confused the guy with the girl. Haku at that time was in shock, because he did not expect such a respectful attitude towards himself. Then Zabuza himself came out. He stopped next to Haku and looked at the children with contempt. "What did you want, little ones?" he asks rudely. He looked at Haku and made sure that everything was in order and looked at the children again. "First, we introduce ourselves. My name is Shikamaru and the girl next to me is called Naruto. You correctly said that we are children, but we are unusual. They consider me the genius of my clan, but in it, nodding at Naruto, the nine-tailed fox, Kyubi, but Yoko, is sealed." "Why are you saying all this?" Zabuza says with a frown. Nevertheless, it was strange for him. Why would those open their cards to criminals? "Do not be afraid that now we will seize you and demand money for your little souls." Shikamaru shook his head. "No, you won't do that. Firstly, it is not profitable for you, and there are a lot of brands with this. Let's say that's the case, what's next?" Zabuza continued to speak rudely. He folded his arms across his chest and was still frowning. "A certain Gato wants to frame you. You know him for sure, because it was he who ordered you. You know that he is very greedy. I am 100% sure that he came to you these days and demanded that they stop the repair of the bridge, kill Tazuna. I can see in your eyes that I hit the mark. There was something to look at." After all, Zabuza's eyes widened, but Haku slightly hid behind a man. Shikamaru chuckled. Then Naruto took the floor, who was silent the whole time. "We will give you freedom and happiness so that you can be together and no one will touch you. Do you know where the former Maelstrom country is located? We created our organization Rising Sun there. We want to create a village where there will be peace and order. There will be no anger. True, for now the participants are just me and Shii-kun, but it will grow and we will create a village and an organization that will save those who are unhappy." The girl spoke confidently. Some special power came from her, which I wanted to believe. "Now it is you who are unhappy, you need help." She paused and took Shikamaru's hand to make sure. "Zabuza-san," Haku called softly and tugged on his arm. When the man turned to the boy, he looked into his eyes. "We really need this," just as quietly so that no one can hear him except Zabuza. The man shook his head and then turned to the children. "Let's assume it's true what you said. But the hunt will continue for us and we will not be able to live in peace." Zabuza says just as gloomily. "You don't have to worry about that. If you agree, then you need to adjust your death. Attack the bridge in a day. Attack with full force, because no one should guess that this is a performance. In the middle of the fight, weaken, one of you can pass out with the help of Sanban. Haku can do it, just prick yourself at a certain time. At the same time, Gato should come." The boy fell silent a little, taking a breath, then continued, "Use Zabuza fight wars with your last strength, and then kneel down." "Wait." Shikamaru frowned as he rubbed the bridge of his nose as he considered something. "Haku, you are a doctor, can you make Zabuza take some kind of drug before the fight with Gato and after a certain time begin to weaken, and then lose consciousness?" The Nara looked at Haku. Haku thought for a moment and then nodded. "Yes, I can do that." "Great. When you two are sort of dead, we'll swap your bodies for clones and bury them. If I remember correctly, there is an abandoned house near the bridge, where people are afraid to go because the inhabitants believe that ghosts live there. So we will take you there, and at night when everything calms down, go to the whirlpool country. Just be prepared that there are ruins and you have to build a house first. Do not go far from the whirlpool, in which case tell us right away. All the details later. Now your fake death is important. Haku, we're counting on you. Shikamaru nodded to the Umbu and then looked at Zabuza. Amazing, Zabuza breathed out, and looked at Shikamaru. So much intelligence in such a small head. He grinned. Well, we are not afraid of difficulties, so to speak. And turn to you, otherwise I feel like a grandfather. The man laughed kindly, and then approached the girl. Stick to your goal, brave Naruto, and we will always help, and patted her on the head. Uzumaki blushed from the actions of the man. Now we need to diverge. The mercenary turned to Hack and nodded to him. They went into the forest, and there they had already disappeared behind the trees. Naruto and Shikamaru looked at each other and then smiled at each other. They were lucky, because the first people had already joined their organization. They turned and went home. The guys came just at the time when everyone started to leave, and no one suspected that they were leaving somewhere. 2 days flew by quickly. Shikamaru and Naruto were getting ready. First of all, they put the abandoned house in order and Uzumaki put the seal of movement so that the mercenaries would be in this place. She created clones in advance, and Shikamaru used henge on them, because Naruto doesn't have much illusions. The clones were unconscious. Naruto placed seals on the clones to replace Zabuza and Haku. It took a day. The next day, they worked on the bridge for half a day with Tazuna. The next half day they worked out a plan for how they would operate. After all, their team should not guess anything. This they did deep in the forest, where they released the fox and he prompted them. Baby, if in order to do a body swap, you create a lot of clones to help Zabuza, and at the right time you dispel them, the clones will emit white smoke for just a couple of seconds, and you will switch the bodies of Zabuza and Haru. Kurama suggested and looked at Naruto and Shikamaru. Their eyes lit up with delight. My little fox, you are so smart, the girl says with a smile and, having caught the fox, begins to hug him. Grr. What a little fox I am to you. I'm a great Kyubi, but Yoki, the fox growled. He didn't like being called a fox, but the small impudent one did it stubbornly. He deftly escaped from the embrace, and finally hit the little impudent tail with his tails on the small nose. It didn't hurt, it was more like it hurt, causing Naruto to sneeze. Shikamaru let out a chuckle and then started laughing altogether. The Uzumaki looked at the boy with an offended look, but then smiled. Shii-kun, there's nothing funny here, said the little girl, pouting her lips. Shikamaru didn't say anything, but just hugging Naruto lay down on the grass and pulled the girl towards him. And so they lay until the evening. Because tomorrow is going to be a tough day. The day started as usual, and this is in the morning. Ask what is so unusual here. Morning is like morning, the beginning of a new day. But not everything is so rosy, if you know what should happen on this day. But more on that later. When in the evening, after training, Shikamaru and Naruto each went to their rooms to sleep, Uzumaki could not sleep for a long time and in the end did not close her eyes. Early in the morning, she went out onto the porch of the house and, leaning on the railing, began to watch the forest as it wakes up. First, the forest rustled, as if waking up everyone who lives in it, then the first birds sang with beautiful voices, each wanted to sing each other. If you close your eyes and listen, you can hear the animals waking up too. Then the door creaked and a blanket was placed on Naruto's shoulders, and then his own arms hugged her. Why do not you sleep? Says a softly boyish voice next to the girl's ear. Don't say it though, I already know. You worry that something might go wrong. The boy put his head on her shoulder and looked at the forest. Everything will be fine, we can handle everything, right? Yes, Shii-kun, the girl replies with a smile and looks at the guy out of the corner of her eye. We'll get it right, says confidently. When Shikamaru appeared, Naruto became more confident that they would succeed, and they would be able to protect both their team and Zabuza and Haku. While there is still time, then go and sleep, okay? The boy smiled sweetly at her. The Uzumaki nodded but didn't hurry to leave. She understood that she would not fall asleep, she was very worried. After all, today was an important day. Shii-kun, I don't want to yet, and I don't see the point in going anymore, I have to wake up soon anyway. Naruto sighed and pressed her back against the boy's chest, closing her eyes and relaxing. So I'm thinking here, when we leave, it will be necessary to leave a clone here, just in case. Still, Gato does not play fair, and in order to influence Tazuna, he can kidnap his daughter and grandson. Shikamaru nodded at Uzumaki's suggestion. He himself was not very calm. He yawned and shrugged his shoulders slightly as he sensed they weren't alone now. Kakashi appeared on the tree, hoping to go unnoticed. Still, he was interested in this couple. Who was on her own mind. But they didn't do anything. After a while, the house began to revive, everyone began to wake up. Voices were heard on the first floor. First Tsunami, then Sakura's voice, and then Inari's voice. Sasuke walked out onto the veranda and leaned against the railing. He gave a weak nod to Shikamaru and Naruto before moving his gaze to the forest. The three of them just kept silent and enjoyed the silence. Everyone had their own thoughts. Then Inari ran out, examined the Trinity and looked around a little. Mom calls me to eat there. Grandpa told me to call Kakashi-sensei, where is he? He speaks in an arrogant voice and chuckles a little. He hated shinobi, they were brave because of which they die. Kakashi jumped down smoothly from the tree, an open book in his hands. He examined everyone. Good morning, and without waiting for a greeting, he closed the book and went into the house. His disciples followed him. At the house, the guys went to have breakfast, and Kakashi went to Tazuna to discuss something. When the teacher returned, he sat down at the table. Today we will all go to the bridge. Today will be the last stage of the bridge construction, he sighed. He didn't have a very good feeling. Sakura, if something happens, your job is to protect Tazuna-san, Shikamaru be Naruto and Sasuke's insurance. Your ability to wield shadows will be a good support for them. Naruto, Sasuke will be paired, your task is. Kakashi did not have time to finish, as he was interrupted. He grimaced at the squeal, and looked at the one who interrupted him. What? Sakura couldn't help it and slammed the table. She was angry, why should a demon be put with her Sasuke, why are they paired? Naruto is a weakling, Sasuke next to her would be dangerous to work in tandem. It's not fair. Sakura, firstly don't interrupt me, secondly Sasuke and Naruto are melee fighters, they have good reflexes, a good level of training, if someone attacks, they will be able to fight back, Shikamaru is a ranged fighter, he will be it's easier to belay, he explains coldly to his student. The Uzumaki looked at Nara. She was scared, because for the first time she would be with someone in a pair. The boy carefully took her hand and squeezed, giving his support, it's good that they were sitting next to each other. The girl immediately calmed down, so what, that she would be paired with someone other than Shii-kun, he would still be there, behind her back, to guard. Sakura, on the other hand, shut up and began to look at her plate, thinking about something. Kakashi snorted at the sudden silence. We'll be leaving in 30 minutes, and now bon appetit. At the appointed time, all the shinobi were ready and together with Tazuna went to the bridge. Naruto walked beside Shikamaru holding hands. She was thoughtful. Sakura molested Sasuke though, which is surprising. Sasuke tried to move closer to the couple, as he noticed how Sakura fell behind him when he was close to them. Everything was very quiet on the bridge, which was not good. Kakashi was worried, and for good reason. After a while, a fog appeared, and it became thicker and thicker. Naruto and Shikamaru looked at each other and nodded. Goldilocks moved closer to Sasuke and signaled to be ready. The fog grew thicker and thicker, and it is not clear where the strange sounds came from, and then in a few seconds the Uchiha and Uzumaki found themselves in an ice cocoon. Naruto flinched at the dome. Yet Shikamaru nearly died in it. She looked around, after all, and the fight must be real for everyone to believe. She subtly nodded at Hack in greeting. The girl got into a fighting stance and took out a kunai. Sasuke stood up to her back in the same position. Sasuke-kun, don't use too much chakra, this dome absorbs it, the Uzumaki said softly. Uchiha only nodded, because words were superfluous here. You won't leave this time, Haku said coldly and started attacking with Senbon. The guys fought back from them, but no matter how they fought back, still some of them missed, which painfully entered their bodies. Fire technique, fireball. Sasuke shouted, giving them a couple of seconds to rest, and then the attack began with renewed vigor. Shikamaru stood aside and thought. What is the best way to help, because if you hit from the outside, there will be no effect, so you need to catch it somehow, and the boy began to expect. At the same time, Zabuza appeared. He attacked Kakashi with renewed vigor and giggled nastily. Here I am, a copying ninja, he says rudely and smirks. Zabuza deftly handled his sword, attacked. Even though Kakashi was not far behind. He also skillfully wielded a kunai, defending himself. It was very beautiful, it was like some kind of dance, only very dangerous. I was waiting for you, you won't believe it, because we weren't finished yet, Kakashi says and snorts. Then he jumped back, summoning technique. Dogs appeared in the haze. What Kakashi got scared and called his dogs. The swordsman laughed and made the fog even thicker. The first blow in such a fog and Hatake was wounded in the arm. New attacks began, which Hatake began to repel. But then Zabuza made a mistake, because of which he paid the price. The dogs bit his hands and put a seal, and behind which the swordsman cannot move his hands. That's got it, Kakashi said with a grin, lightning technique, Raikiri, and directed lightning at Zabuza. Shikamaru seized that moment to capture Haku. When he was as low as possible to the ground. Shadow paralysis technique. Nara spoke. The Umbu yelped, and the sound distracted Zabuza. Haku froze and stared straight ahead in shock. The dome disintegrated, revealing Sasuke and Naruto. Uchiha stood in shock and touched his cheek with his fingers, there was blood on it. He looked at the Uzumaki to understand what had happened, but she stared back at him in shock. Sharingan, the girl said in shock. Then she quickly looked away. Still, the Sharingan is dangerous. And she didn't want Sasuke to even hit her in the head by mistake. She looked at Haku. Already the three of them approached Haku. Shikamaru was still holding the boy. Hi, Naruto said and carefully took off his mask and looked at Haru. But here he behaved very strangely. He began to twitch very strongly, he wanted to get out, and there was panic in his eyes. Shikamaru had no choice but to release him, and he immediately moved right in front of Zabuza, becoming a shield. I will protect Zabuza-san, Haku says loudly. Damn it, Shikamaru swore and watched in panic as Kakashi's fist went right through Haku. Everyone looked at it in shock. Zabuza was the first to come to his senses and fell to his knees in front of him, howling. This is where the story ends.